Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
I think we're set.
Let's do it.
Well, fuck. Let's cheers.
Cheers. What do you think?
It's good, yeah. What is this?
No, it's some type of Belgian blonde or something like that.
I like blonde beers.
Yeah, this is my favorite. It's real spicy.
I think we both kind of blend in with the couch. That's kind of funny.
I know.
All right, man. So how you been?
Good, dude. Things have been busy since I got back from the short Thanksgiving trip. It was pretty busy when I was back home, actually, because I was in Philly for a little while, and then I was on the beach for a bachelor party, which wasn't really a bachelor party. It was just golfing, but it was still nice.
Yeah.
And then spent about a week with my family, and now back to it since I've been back in LA, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, and you were gone for how long?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Did you feel happy? Like, there's a different feeling, I feel like, I haven't been to the East Coast very much, but just being in Minnesota feels a lot different than being here.
Yeah. So originally I wasn't excited to go home because I grew up in Western Maryland. There's nothing to do there. I'm like surrounded by like cows and farms and stuff like that. But that's like, where my family is, and it's really just my immediate family. So I don't really consider home a place. It's like wherever my family's at.
Yeah.
But I wasn't excited to go back home for that exact reason. It's like, I'm going back. There's nothing to do. Like, things are still kind of closed down. It's more open in Maryland right now than it is in LA.
Yeah.
But I got on the flight and I fell asleep the first hour, and I woke up and I just felt like so peaceful. It was so nice. And then I felt that the majority of the time that I was home, and kind of carried that back with me. And I think it was because before, when I moved out here, I was staying with a friend. I was like sleeping on a couch for like 4 months.
Yep.
And I came back, and I knew I was coming back to like my place, not something that was like shifting,
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason as well. But yeah, it felt a lot more peaceful. It was nice to see my family. I hadn't seen them since May, so yeah.
Dope, dude. And you're saying you fell asleep on the way back to Maryland or back to LA?
Back to Maryland.
Back to Maryland.
Yeah.
Were you excited to come back?
Yeah, dude, very excited. And also just like, this place that I have is incredible, and just being able to have my own space that's entirely mine, and I'm completely responsible for it. And it's like, I get to keep it clean. I don't have to worry about anyone else. It's just like great peace of mind. And also like, I'm like building out of this workspace. Like this is my office. So
yeah, to live work. Yeah, it'll get staticky a little bit. Usually it doesn't last too long. So sorry to everyone listening as well if you hear that. We'll have to upgrade as the show upgrades, but not people, of course. The first 2 guests have been fucking fantastic, honestly. My conversation with Anton was exactly what I envisioned in my head, and I'm sure it'll be the same with you, because I have so much I'd like to ask you and just get to know you better. But so with that, I guess just tell me, because again, we haven't known each other very long. At all. And so just tell me more about how you grew up, where you came from, and yeah, man, your experiences growing up and as a child, and your childhood, all on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, all on the East Coast. So for the listeners, for the audience, those of you who don't know me, my name is Nico Degrange. I am a bunch of things, but I guess at the core, I'm just a creator, which sounds very stereotypical, very cliche to say. But I'll give everyone a little bit of background about myself and fill you in a little bit more. We've had some of this conversation before, but for you guys listening,
feel free to repeat whatever you've told me. I'd like to hear it again anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in Western Maryland. Like I said, my neighbors were cows. Had a lot of land. I was best friends with my little brother Alex, 3 years younger than me. But being so far out, it gave me a lot of time to just like be creative. And, you know, we didn't grow up in a neighborhood. So it was me and Alex doing a lot of stuff. And I was playing a lot of sports. So, like, you know, we were outside a lot, like riding motorcycles, riding ATVs, riding golf carts, doing all kinds of stuff kids love to do outdoors.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of my hometown, for as small and insignificant as it is, it's very corrupt. The drug trade is like rampant there because it's where two major interstates cross, 70 and 81. So all of the drugs that are coming from Latin or South America in through Miami are coming up, and then my hometown is like a stopover between New York and then DC or the West Coast. So all of that traffic is there, and there's a lot of wannabe rich corruption. I really felt it in school. There was a lot of politics in sports and just anything you could think of. If there was a parent that had a kid in some organization, they were going to finagle their way to get their kid to the top. And I was like, you know, I'm not going to be a part of that. My parents weren't going to be a part of that, like trying to manipulate me into an organization that I wanted to be in, whether it was for just like school basketball or little league baseball. And like, as ridiculous as that sounds, like that's how deep seated it was. Like little league baseball, everyone was like trying to get their kid to the top. It was about like who was putting the most money into the fundraisers and things like that.
Are you saying you felt the corruption from drugs in the sports of the school?
It wasn't just the corruption of drugs. It was just like the heart of corruption in general.
Yeah,
like
everything was kind of
that deep.
You can buy whatever.
Desire for money and recognition and ego. And it's funny because like nobody's ever heard of my hometown, and it's not somewhere where rich people go to live. So it's like a lot of people who are like self-inflated in their own mind. So anyways, I see this growing up and I'm like kind of appalled by it, really. And I saw that people didn't practice what they preach. So I was always like looking to get out. I was like, you know, I want to go somewhere else and do something. I wanted to design cars when I was little. So I went to school for engineering at Drexel. That's in Philly, right next to UPenn's campus. And when I went away, I was like I wouldn't say I was a rule follower, but I wasn't like a rebellious child growing up. I always like to find my own way, but I wouldn't intentionally rebel just for the sake of it. You had
fun, but you weren't just trying to like get in trouble and fuck shit up.
When I went to school, I just went wild. Like
in Drexel?
It was like the first time that I had any type of like influence over people, and had such a great group of friends who were also very influential people. And within just a few weeks of being a freshman there, like we had like ins with all of like the seniors and the upperclassmen and the fraternities, and we hadn't even joined in any of these things. So it was like I kind of got like the thing that I despised growing up, I kind of got like a dose of that when I went to schools, like that self-inflated ego, like, oh, I was actually more important than I was. Did terrible in school the first year, almost lost my scholarship, and I was like, I can't go back home because there's nothing there for me, and like I'm not going back to that.
Saying failing out wasn't an option in your head.
So really like fought my way back to the top of the ladder academically, which was just awful, so stressful because I had no wiggle room whatsoever. Ended up moving to Singapore when I was 20, and I worked for a robotics company.
Bro, talk about that, because that, in my mind, I have obviously no experience with that. I'm not even someone who, maybe someday I will, but dives into robotics on YouTube or anything. So what the hell was that like?
It was really eye-opening. So at that point, I had changed my major from mechanical engineering to business and engineering, which was like a special cross-discipline that only handful of universities do, where it's like it's an equal amount of study in engineering and business. So when I got this co-op, I was business and sales development and tech support. So I had to know how to code the robots and like provide tech support on the spot to clients, but I also had to be able to like sell it and just like know the full product. I had to be the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And the third day I was there, I hadn't met my general manager yet, but she calls me into her office and she's like, look, you're not an intern, you're a full-time employee, and you're going to be responsible for projects. There's only 8 people on the team, so we all have multiple responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't handle being in charge of people and you know, being a full-time employee, then I'm sorry, but we're going to have to find somebody else. And I was like, well, I like this lady. Like, this isn't something that you normally hear, but I welcome the responsibility. Butted heads with my supervisor a lot, because I was like a proud like little kid. I really was at the time. But the culture shock was actually worse coming back to the United States than it was moving to Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely took some time to get integrated, but I started to realize, I was like, you know, that the way that I see the world, the way that I understand it, I felt so wise because I could see things that other people couldn't, my
mm-hmm.
age or even older.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I know how the world works, blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to Singapore where everything was like completely flipped upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't as important anymore. And mind you, like when I was little, I always wanted to move to a foreign country and start from scratch, like with nothing and knowing no one.
Create your life there, or just for a little bit?
Just, I think it was just like the excitement of like adventure.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would be like creating a life there, but creating a life there,
Yeah.
not an entire lifetime there, but creating a life there. So when I moved to Singapore when I was 20, I did exactly that. I had like $500 to my name. I moved before I got employed, and I didn't know anyone. And after the 5th day of like not meeting people and like going around and realizing how expensive Singapore was, I was like, dang, I think I made a mistake. Like,
mm-hmm.
And there was one night when I was like really considering just flying back, like just like asking to borrow money from my parents and then booking a flight back and then just getting something in the States back in Philly, because it sucked so bad. And I was like, you know, there was this thought that I was like forced to grapple with before I went to sleep. And it was like, you may never get this opportunity again. And I was too afraid of what my life would look like after having got such an amazing opportunity as a 20-year-old to just like say no and like throw that away because I was too scared. So I was terrified, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna like embrace the suck pretty much for the next 7 months, and like I'm probably not gonna meet anyone, and this is probably gonna be a terrible time, but like I committed to this, I'm gonna stick with it. And it was almost like when I honored the commitment that I made, I started meeting people,
mm-hmm.
like within 24 or 48 hours after that. And they weren't just like, you know, any people. They were like one of the first girls I met there was an independent journalist for all of Southeast Asia. So she had ins to all the bars and the clubs. So she would like text me or the girl that I was dating at the time and just be like, hey, so-and-so or this club or this bar is like having an event tonight and I'm supposed to be journaling. I'm not going to go. I'm going to go another night. But just let me know, and I can get you a table and a bottle, just like that, free of charge.
Yeah, because she was supposed to be there. She would just give you her spot.
Yeah. So I
dope.
I didn't pay for club entry, and I didn't pay for bottles or alcohol, and like period at all when I was in Singapore.
Damn.
Like when we would go out with a group of people, or if it was like me and the girl I was dating and maybe another one of her friends. So like that's a 20-year-old's dream.
Yeah. And
she knew everyone who was everyone.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like anyone who is relevant in like the club scene or like the bar scene, or like I wouldn't exactly call them influencers, but they were more like actual famous people.
Like local kind of fame?
No, Miss Universe.
Yeah.
People like that. People who like were high up in the business world who were also in the club world. Like
Yeah.
they knew those people, and it seemed like anyone who was anyone knew all of those people.
Okay, so it's kind of a tight knit group
Yeah.
of higher status, you could say, people.
Yeah, and I got like almost sucked into that.
Yeah.
As soon as I embraced that, I was like, you know what, these next 7 months are gonna suck, and it turned out not to be. I ended up dating a girl who's a famous DJ over there, which I didn't know that she was a famous DJ until after we had started dating. So that was also a huge plus. But, you know, for like a 20-year-old, this was mind-blowing. This is like what people write about, like that's like clickbait right there. Like,
Yeah.
this is what people like try to
20-year-old American goes to Singapore,
yeah,
meets and dates famous whatever.
But at the same time, I could go to a McDonald's or a restaurant or just like anything. Like I specifically remember this one time after this had happened multiple times and I was getting really, really pissed off. I went to a McDonald's and there was a older Chinese guy who was behind the counter, and I was waiting in this really long line because I was on Sentosa Island, which is a more touristy island.
Yeah.
And there were like other like Singapore is such a melting pot of ethnicities, and there were like some other people behind me who weren't white, and he didn't even acknowledge me. He just called the next lady in line, and then he called the next guy in line, and I was like getting like impatient, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna say anything. And he did it for the third time, and I literally just like yelled in the middle of the McDonald's. I was like, are you joking me right now?
Yeah.
Like I've been standing here for this amount of time.
Like you were in the front, right?
Yeah,
clearly in front of these other people.
Yeah. And he like never acknowledged me, never made eye contact with me once. And I tried to go up and he wouldn't serve me. And it was like the first time where I was like, I called my best friend, Eric, who's first generation. Well, his parents are from Togo and Congo. So he's first generation American from African descent. And I was like, bro, I really, really feel what it means to like be discriminated towards. And you know, it's not that I didn't have empathy before, but I realized like I'm not important whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like this there's almost like this false sense of pride that like lurks in the hearts of people who aren't discriminated against when they're like, oh, there's no such thing as privilege and this and that. I was like, I'm really not as important as I think I am, and I don't even feel like I'm very prideful or like I have a big ego. But I started to recognize like I did have an issue, and it was really stemming from those first 2 years of college when I felt like really accepted and like almost like idolized by certain people. They were like, yo, who is this kid? And I had never felt that before because I was like really rejected in like middle and high school. So it was like a complete 180, and I was like, I have like a heart issue that I need to work on. So there were a couple things that were going on when I was in Singapore. There was like the social issues, and like, you know, having a lot of like really influential and famous friends. And then there were the financial issues. I had more money than I had ever had. And my parents were really adamant on me being financially independent. They were like, if you want to buy stuff, like you pay for it. You get a job, you do this. So I started working when I was 15, just as like a lifeguard over the summer, so that I had money to buy things for. And then like saved up a ton of money for when I went to school, and like wasn't smart with it at all and like blew it all away. Paid for my rent basically from sophomore year until I graduated. But when I was in Singapore, I had more money than I ever had. It was like a wire transfer, just like went straight to my bank account, and I had like 15 grand on the spot. And I remember going into like the Louis Vuitton store, and I was like, yo, I could buy these loafers right now. Like they're $1,000, but like don't look down on me because I have the money now. And I felt like almost like a sense of power that came with that. And I was like, no, that's a stupid decision. Like I could go travel to like Bali or Thailand for $1,000 and have a way better time.
And why did you have so much money? Because the The exchange rate was less, or are you saying you literally just had more US dollars?
The exchange rate was one thing.
Yeah.
The co-op didn't pay much because international internships don't usually, but they paid enough to pay my rent exactly every single month.
Yeah.
And then there was a scholarship that I got going there that was like $10,000 for anyone who is working in Southeast Asia from like some specific family that had a grant at Drexel just for Southeast Asia.
Wow.
So $10,000 wire transfer to my bank. But that didn't hit until, because like I said, I moved there with $500. I moved before I got employed, so it didn't hit until like maybe 3 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like this inflated sense of self-importance. So there was like that also like that personal, I guess like emotional, there were these emotional issues that started surfacing. So all of this stuff was like happening all at once. And then on top of that, like there was this really powerful moment that I had with God when I was in Singapore that really like dramatically shifted the rest of my life from that point on.
I want them to hear this. Can you just talk a little closer to the mic? I want to make sure it gets picked up well. Yeah, for you. You're good though.
Okay. So yeah, all of this stuff was happening, and then I'll wait till that passes.
Yeah.
All of this stuff was happening, and as I turned 21 while I was there, and it didn't feel like a traditional 21.
Yeah.
Like 21st birthday
celebration.
Because I could start drinking as soon as I got there.
Mm-hmm.
After Singapore, I know that was kind of long-winded, but after Singapore,
bro, you can be as long-winded as you want.
I was building a business at the time. I started when I was a sophomore. It was green technology, like renewable energy engine that I had built. And I moved back to Philly, and I didn't have a place to stay. So I used the remaining $3,000 that I had.
From the grant? From Singapore?
Yeah, from the grant and from
working?
From working.
Yeah.
So I was like, instead of buying a place or like renting a place, because I was getting ready to study in Germany in June. So I came at the end of June. So I came back. I flew back the 1st of April, and classes started the 2nd of April. I went home. I got the family van that we had, and I drove it up to Drexel. And I was like, I'll probably be here for like 2 weeks, and I'll find something. Like, I'm sure there's somebody who will like. I didn't want to like impose on anyone, so I didn't want to impose on like any college. I don't even know what narrative I had in my head. I was like, oh, maybe I can find like a benefactor, a beneficiary who's gonna be like, oh yeah, like you're building this business, like you can stay at my place in the meantime. I don't know what I was thinking, but that's what I was thinking. So so it's like really a long shot, and I started to realize, so at that time I was really like sucked into like this motivation, like hustle hard, like if you just do it, it's just gonna happen culture.
Yep.
And it sounds amazing. Like I was listening to like way too much Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Les Brown, and I was like, yes, I control my destiny. I can make this happen. And when I was in the car, I had to wake up at 6 every morning because I had 8 a.m.s 3 days a week. And then on the other 2 days, I had 9 a.m.s. So I had to make sure my schedule was the same every single day. I was like keeping super disciplined. And over time, I was just getting worn down. So like by the end of the second week, I was like, I'm no closer to finding a place to stay.
Yep. And
I'm trying to lay low, but like I don't know how much longer I can do this, because I still had 10 weeks of school left after that. And my friend Eric was like, yo, you can stay at my place. And I was like, I kind of fell back into that mentality of like, no, you suffered through this. Like, you committed to this, you do it now. It's not about, like, I'm not going to impose on somebody else. I'm not going to work off of the back of somebody else's.
Yeah. You wanted to go through the struggle to kind of thinking, okay, this is going to make me stronger.
Yeah.
Let me almost prove to myself, maybe I can get through this and I can do exactly what I think I can do.
Yeah. So
I feel that.
One front, it was great that I committed, but
oh shit,
it wasn't actually a smart move at all.
Mm-hmm.
because it threw me in this like intellectual, emotional void that I couldn't get out of for like almost a year and a half. Like I was like seriously messed up after like living in a car for 3 months and like working full time and also going to school full time. Like I was taking I think 18 or 19 credits at the time. Over the course of 12 weeks. I was preparing to go to Germany and London.
And you're doing engineering classes?
Yeah.
Which yeah.
And then I was also building a company.
Yeah.
And it was all hardware. So
it was just you?
It was me and one of my friends who was like the main engineer. Even though I had designed and engineered all the technology, I was like starting to learn what it meant to like delegate tasks and things like that instead of trying to like handle all the responsibility myself. And I didn't really know what that looked like. You know, I was only 21 and I didn't really have a clear idea of what was going on. I didn't have much money to spare. Like I literally ate one meal a day. I would go to Chipotle and I get lunch and I get a huge burrito and then I eat half of it.
Yeah.
And then if I needed anything in the morning, I just go to Trader Joe's and I get like a box of cereal, maybe like bananas if I was in the mood because I could like leave them in the car in the shade. And then instead of like going out and buying Starbucks, I like coffee in the morning, I would get like the cold brew concentrate and then I would put a little bit of it in my blender bottle and then I would pour water in it and I would make it last for as long as I needed to. So I was like really skimping and it sucked, dude, because I would go to the gym in the morning and sometimes it'd be way too crowded and I couldn't, if I needed to take a shower after I worked out.
That's what I was going to ask. Where'd you shower?
Yeah, so I'd shower in the gym every morning and if I couldn't get in the shower, like if the line was too long, then I'd be late for my first class. If I took a shower. So some days I would have to wait and I have to go back and shower, which would throw my entire day off because I was like so strict with the timing of everything.
Trying to keep it consistent.
Really started to mess me up. And I started to realize like all of my friends who I don't want to say said that they were my friends, but acted like my friends were nowhere to be found when I was like in this really, really tough time. So a lot of people, they'd see me and they'd be like, oh, like, I haven't seen you in so long. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, you know, I'm like laying low. I'm getting ready I just came back from Singapore. I'm getting ready to go to Germany soon.
And this is back at Drexel, right?
Yeah.
Where you felt before you were kind of the shit.
Yeah.
And you weren't feeling like that anymore. You were seeing the same people.
Yeah. So it was really interesting because they were like so life-giving as soon as they saw me. But then they were like, oh, like, where are you staying? And I was like always hesitant because I didn't want people to feel pity for me.
Yeah.
Because I did this to myself, but I was like, oh, like some people I'd be like, oh, you know, I'm just down that way. Like I'm staying like on this street or like wherever my car was parked.
Yeah, you wouldn't tell them you were in the car. But
the people who I thought were my close friends, I'd be like, oh, I'm living out of my car for a little bit. And they would be like, what? Are you serious? Like, no, you can't do that. Like you're going to school. Like you need a place to stay. Like it's going to get hot soon because it was in the spring. Like, why don't you just come stay at my place? Just text me and let me know. Like I have a couch or I have an extra bed. And Eric let me stay at his place one night. It was too hot. Another night, on the other nights it was too hot, I would go into the building that I used to work at, like a residential building, and I'd go, because I knew everyone in the building, I'd go into the loft and I'd sleep in a chair at night. Yeah. And then like one of the like most memorable random acts of kindness anyone ever did, there was a girl who I was good friends with, and she was moving out. It was like almost the end of the term. I think I had like a week left, and it was way too hot to sleep in the car. And I didn't want to go all the way back on the other side of campus to like sleep in a chair. I was like, I have a final tomorrow. Like I really need to get some rest. She was like, I'm sorry, but like I can't, but you can, I can text my friend. She has an extra couch that you could probably sleep on. And I had met this girl like maybe once or twice. And she was like, I gave this girl your number, like she's going to text you. And I was like, she's probably going to say no. Yeah. Like if my good friend said no, like she's probably not going to say yes. And she actually texted me and she was like, hey, if you can come in like the next 15, 30 minutes, like I can like let you in and like you can sleep on the couch and then just pack up your stuff in the morning and head to your final. Like it's no big deal. And I was like blown away, like how kind she was, because all these people who were like, oh, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, like nowhere to be found. They would text me back like 2 or 3 days later. They'd be like, "Oh, sorry, I just read this text message," or "Oh, my bad, like I didn't get the text."
So they would offer like a place to stay and then just not follow through, basically, and that was happening.
Yeah. So
damn,
I get to the end of this.
Clearly not your real friends, right?
Yeah. And I got bitter at first, but what I realized in time was that I was changing.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I was scared to go back to school was because like I had this really kind of terrifying encounter with God. And I was just like, I just don't feel like I'm the same person anymore. Like I was down to like wild out, do whatever. Like I write about like the stories, I should say the memories that I have in my book, The One Who Follows. And they're like fantastical, like they're pretty ridiculous. And I was like just encountering these times, like these experiences time and time again. But when I came back from Singapore, I was like, I actually don't want to do that. And it wasn't because I was trying to change who I was. Like I actually just felt different. So the term wraps up after sleeping in the car. Never found a place to stay.
So that was 10 weeks?
That was 12 weeks.
Fuck.
Never found a place to stay. The business that we were building, I finally filed a patent, which was like a huge win because we had a little bit more protection of our IP. But every time we would like go into an investor meeting, we would either get laughed out because they would be like, "Oh, that's not possible," or they'd be like, "Oh, we need more information," but we couldn't give away like the
secrets.
Yeah, like we were between like a rock and a hard place because like we had this proprietary technology and like we were building a prototype. Theoretically, it was going to work, and the prototype we had working, but not to like full capacity. And we kept like running into just like really small problems, like 3 times in a row they shipped us the wrong part. And then my friend who was the engineer got shingles, like really bad, like what old people get, but he like got it on his face, bro.
What?
So he missed all his midterms. So then he had to spend like weeks 8 and 9 making up midterms and then skipping class and preparing for his final. So he had no time to run any tests on it. And he was getting really discouraged because we were both running out of money. And the plan was we were going to defer our final co-op and see if we could get like permission from the school to like run the business. And we were going to go up to New York because it was close to all of the suppliers that we needed and like all of the materials that we needed. So he was getting really discouraged. And then I was like, dude, just like, we're just like, you just need to stay positive through all this. Like, this is really tough. I went to Germany. I went early. It rained for the entire week. I thought I was going to be able to meet people. Wrong. And I thought it was going to be like Singapore. Totally wrong. I was in a country where the main language wasn't English, which was like a huge change for me. And it kind of made it stressful.
The main language in Singapore was English?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't know that.
I had maybe 1 or 2 calls with my friend when I was in Germany over the course of 5 weeks. And then I only had 1 call the 7 weeks that I was in London. And I went to London and I knew that it was over before it was over. I was like really trying to make things work.
Same with your own company?
Yeah. School kind of just like flew by. I had a good friend that I stayed with in Germany that I didn't meet until I got out there. He just became a good friend of mine. And Germany was kind of healing after living in the car for such a long time because I was meeting a lot of new people and they weren't just like American kids. Like we were in a group of like kids from all over the world and they were like kind of weird, but they were interesting. Yeah. So it was nice. And I had scholarship money again. So I wasn't completely like fending for myself all over again. But I had to be like really strict with like how much money I would spend on food. Like I couldn't go out like the rest of the kids could, as much as the rest of the kids could, because my parents weren't like providing for, Like I couldn't be like, hey, can I have some money because I'm going to study abroad, and then go spend $200 over the course of a week and a half on like clubs and bars.
Yeah.
They'd be like, no, we're not giving you $200 to go out drinking.
Yeah.
Or like go out clubbing or whatever. And then it was funny because they'd be like, oh, like you need to get out and like have some more experiences. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like I can't go out because I don't have any money. So
Yeah.
I used what I had sparingly, and I still had a good time, but I was really focused. I was like, I don't care about going out so much as I do building this business. Like I need to set my future up for myself, not only like my dream to build cars and things like that, but also to make an impact, to feel like I have purpose, and also to like set myself up financially. I was not enjoying school at all. I really wanted to drop out, but I knew if I did, like my mom would kill me. Because like, if the business didn't work out and I dropped out of school, like I was going to be working to put myself back in school.
Yeah. And so this business, was it incorporated or like, did it tie in with designing cars?
Yeah. So that I originally built the engine because I knew that you can't just start a car company from scratch.
Okay.
And
so it was
like,
a clean engine because you said it was clean energy, right?
I was like,
I wasn't thinking cars.
If I have technology that can power a car cleanly, then I can build my own cars if I want to.
Yeah.
But we started off smaller. It was just clean, renewable energy. Like whether it was used as a generator, whether it was used as like in a car or a motorcycle, whatever.
So you're just trying to get at the ground level and then scale it up to be in cars.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And as time went on, like I realized I lost the whole purpose as to why I was doing it. When I was in London, my realtor in New York, because we were looking at getting a place that was going to be like our office and our living space, he was like, hey, your friend, your engineer has not texted me or called me in like the last 2 months. I don't.
This
like,
is while you're abroad, and he's dealing with that back home.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, let me know what you want to do. And I was like, dude, it's over. Like, I just knew. I had this like dreadful feeling. Like I was gonna be going back. I missed both rounds A and B for co-op, so all of the good jobs were gone.
And co-op, yeah, just for everybody from Midwest, co-op, or at least where I went to school, is just an internship.
Yeah.
So East Coast, I don't know, is that common in East Coast co-op?
Yeah. No, it's not common in East Coast. It's just usually like internships.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So I like was calling him and texting him. I called my realtor. I was like, I'll just talk to you. Like, I'll plan to just do this by myself. And then my friend, he texts me back like 2 weeks later. He's like, hey dude, sorry, can't do this anymore. Life is just like hitting too hard right now. Like I have a girlfriend, like school's fun. Like I kind of just want to enjoy it. Like, why don't we just pick this back up after school, like after we graduate? And I was like, I completely understood him. And I was just like, all right, man, well, thanks for like letting me know. And then I really tried to like hustle to get everything together to work. And it just like failed miserably. I ran out of money when I was in London, like got terrified that I wasn't going to have enough money to get on the tube to get to the airport to fly back home. Like I was really terrified. Like I was searching frantically through everything I owned. I didn't have any money left. I didn't realize I had spent the rest of it. I was just like so focused on other things.
I've been there.
And found like just enough to cover the fare to get back to the airport and get a drink, get a coffee in the morning.
Oh, I thought you were going to get a beer.
No. I ended up taking a job in New York. I was like void of life, honestly. Like I was like,
you're kind of down on your luck.
I was really like there. I was like very like probably the closest to suicidal I'd ever been.
Really?
And my mom's a psychologist, and I remember her telling me like growing up, like, yeah, people get depressed, and I was like, I just don't understand how people get depressed. Like there's got to be something to like live for. And I always had that like one thing to live for. Like my dreams are what got me through really hard times. Like when I felt really rejected by like my peers at school, my dreams were like the things that were the brighter days.
Yeah, you spent your time on that. You focused on that.
So I put everything in this vessel that didn't exist that was going to exist one day. And that vessel ended up being this company, which I didn't realize all those years earlier. All of my hopes, all of my dreams were in this vessel, and literally somebody just like popped the bubble.
Fuck.
And I fell out of it. And I was just like, there's no point to anything. I was like really, really depressed. And my parents were like, you should just like look in the last round. And I was like, I'm not going to get a job. Like,
Of the co-ops?
Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to go back to Philly or something. I was like, but I don't want to be back in Philly at all. And I'm definitely not staying here in Hagerstown, which is my hometown. I see this job. It's like, it's in the sales division for a fashion company. And I was like, this is the only thing that is like remotely interesting, because it's like, I'll be in a creative industry. Applied for the job, didn't think I was going to get it. I applied with 10 minutes left before the round closed. If I would have like waited any longer, like it would have just been done, and I wouldn't have had like any chance to apply through those jobs, and I would have had to probably just like get a part-time job on my own.
Yeah.
They interview me, and I'm like, I literally don't even care about this job. I don't even really want it. Like, like I was just doing something way more important. And that pride came back. I was like, I'm smarter than you people, and I'm doing something more significant than you people, and I don't care what you're doing. I really don't whatsoever. And they like, I didn't say that in the interview, but like that was my attitude towards it. And they loved me. And then
Bro, isn't it weird? Like literally the things you don't give a fuck about sometimes are so much easier to get.
Yeah. So I get the second interview, and I feel the same way about it. I'm like, I literally don't even care if I don't get it. I'm probably not going to get it anyways. Like the second interview is when they like usually roast you and cut you short.
Yep.
I was like, don't care. And they were like, yeah, so you're going to start. This was on a Friday. They were like, you're going to start on Monday in Manhattan, and you work at the Empire State Building, so be here Monday at 9 a.m. And I was like, what's my salary? And they were like, oh, $15 an hour. I was like, no. I was like, my salary's not $15 an hour. I was like, what can you do to give me a raise? Literally, because I didn't want the job.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, sorry, we can't give interns raises. I was like, okay, well, you can give me a raise. I was like, there's gotta, yeah. I was like, there's gotta be like, I can't live in Manhattan or Brooklyn for that price.
Oh, fuck no. And you just came from probably the other place who was telling you as an intern, you're not an intern.
Yeah.
So that's probably even just in your mentality if you recognize it or not. Like,
yeah,
I'm not a fucking intern.
Exactly. So they were like, no, sorry, like you can either take it or leave it. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. So I update my search in Manhattan, because I was looking like in the 1500s. I was like, if I'm making like at least $18 an hour, I'm so used to like living off of like chicken and rice. And like, I lived out of the van. I can be extremely frugal. I can have a kind of nice place and they just not spend much. I'm not trying to go out to the bars or anything.
Yep.
Like I wasn't in the headspace to like go out and meet people. So I start looking for a place, and I find a place literally the day before I need to go to work. My mom drove up to Delaware with me, and we looked around for places Friday afternoon, because I had the interview Friday morning. We drove up Friday afternoon. We looked for places Friday afternoon, and then Saturday, and I found the place Saturday evening at like 5 or 6 o'clock. And I wasn't sure I was going to take it. I was like, this is really nice. It was on the corner of Soho and Chinatown, so like Lower East Side, amazing spot, 5th story walk up. And both of the landlord lived there, but like he said he was never really there. And then my other roommate, she was like a scientist or something, so she was never really there. And it was like $1,100, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go. I visited one more place after that. It was like $1,500, and it was filthy. Yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna go with this. I ended up getting that place, and I go to work, and the lady who interviewed me was so nice, but like she just, I don't know. It was like, she was like an employee who had been at a company for a really long time. And she was like, I know that I'm protected, so I'm not going to do like my best work all the time.
Yep.
And that pissed me off so much, because I had done so much hard work, and I saw it like all come crashing down. So like I really like, I didn't despise her, but I was appalled by like her mentality. But I could also see at the same time, like if you get into an industry that you're not super passionate about, and like this isn't really what you had in mind for your life, and you just kind of get like
sucked into this world where you have enough money to pay for everything that you could possibly want in life, like all of the other exterior wantings are fulfilled,
Yep.
then you just lose purpose and you don't work hard anymore.
So she was lazy, but secure.
She was great at talking to people and she could get sales, but she didn't do any of the work to follow through with that.
Yeah. And was she supposed to, or was there sales support?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
she was supposed to.
Your
Your
face. She was
face.
supposed to.
She didn't do shit, did she?
So no, but she was amazing. She was like an amazing saleswoman.
Yeah.
So I had to work, even though she wasn't my supervisor. My supervisor, I was actually on paper the sales co-op to the senior vice president of the entire company.
Yep.
So, but she was like, out of reach. And I saw her the first 2 days. And after my co-op in Singapore, I was ready to just like jump right in. Like I wasn't expecting to just like sit around. Like other interns, even during the time that I was there, like when they ran out of work, like they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I actually noticed that was the case so I didn't see that in Singapore because I was the only intern in the office.
Yeah.
Everyone else was a full-time employee, but because I was treated like a full-time employee and I had the responsibility of one, I didn't even see like what the interim looked like. Yeah. So I saw a lot of people because this company was so insanely large. Like just imagine like any possible clothing brand that you possibly like you can fathom. The company I worked for was like that parent company.
Yeah. You were telling me that, yeah. They own
Calvin Klein, Kenneth Cole, Fry Boots, Spider, Juicy Couture, Ellen Tracy, Buffalo, New York, like
just crazy. And you stumbled right into that.
Yeah. Like, and the parent company to the company that I worked for, that we actually worked really close with as far as like, fabric supplies, they supply to every clothing company in the world.
Yeah.
Like Zara was like technically one of our parent companies. They were like our competitor.
Yep.
But they were a client of our parent company.
So like a almost sibling.
Yeah.
Rivalry.
So it was pretty cool. Like what guidelines we could use to, like they might do something that's fast fashion, kind of like H&M.
Yep.
And then we can use something, even though we're not technically a sister company, but we're both clientele, and we were a client and a subsidiary of that parent company. We could like use their designs, but not to the T, and then sell it to like, I don't know, like JCPenney or something like that. As long as it wasn't too close, like as long as we weren't going to catch a lawsuit, we could do that.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see like what could be recycled and reused, because Zara pushes insane numbers, but so does JCPenney, so does Saks on Fifth, so does Nordstrom. Like,
yeah. Did you do Kohl's?
Yeah, Kohl's wasn't in my division, but we had Kohl's as a buyer.
Yeah.
So we, instead of supplying to just like one clientele, I don't want to say one clientele, but like, Zara isn't selling their stuff to JCPenney or Nordstrom or anything like that. Like they have the Zara store. We had multiple retail stores that we were selling to. So I work under SVP. Like the second day I'm in there, I was like asking for work, and the two ladies that I was under, they were amazing, by the way. But the two ladies that I was like helping with and working under, they were like, "Oh, we'll get to you. Like, this is a really busy week." And I just got like this feeling like this is going to be the narrative for the rest of the 6 months.
Yeah.
Every week is going to be a really busy week. So I finish my work, and I go in the morning. It was either the second or the third morning. I go in. I was like, "Hey," I talked to the lady who was kind of like my supervisor, but not really. I was like, "Hey, can I go talk to the boss?" And she's like, "Yeah, what's wrong?" I was like, "No, I just want to say hi to her and just like introduce myself and talk to her." And she's like, "I think that should be okay." So she like goes into her office, and she's like, "Yeah, go ahead." So I go into she had like a glass office.
Yeah.
When I was like, "Can I close the door?" And the lady was like, "Yeah. Like, what do you need to say to me that the door can't be open?" And I literally sat down.
Intern's about to get serious.
Yeah, I sat down and I was like, "Look, like, I am your intern.
Yeah.
On paper, and like, I work directly under you. I don't work directly under anyone else. And, you know, I'm not trying to be too forward or disrespectful, but like, this is the way it is. I was like, I worked in my last co-op directly under the general manager, and like, you know, I was providing feedback to the president of the company, which was like mind blowing for me as a 20-year-old. And I want to go where you go and do what you do. Like your team, if Lady A or Lady B can't, you know, like, if they can't assist me with something that I need help with, then I'll finish what work I have. And if you have any other work for me, I want to do that. Yeah. And if you have any meetings that you want to go to, like, I would like to be in those meetings. I want to learn from you. I'd like to shadow you. And she was like, no intern has ever spoken to me like this before. And I was like, I'm not doing it out of like disrespect, or like, I literally, I work under you, and therefore I want to work under you. Like, I don't want to be delegated to be somebody else's intern. Yeah. Like, if I get my work done, I don't want to be sitting around twiddling my thumbs all day. Like, I want to be doing work. I came here, I got employed to do work, and I'm going to do work. And she was like, okay, all right, well, like, I can take you to some meetings with me. Just ask me. So I asked her for like almost a month, almost every single day. And she'd be like, oh yeah, like, and then she'd like slip out like while I was doing something, and then she'd like go somewhere else. And finally she started bringing me to meetings. And there was this one time that I saw something in a buyer trend, and she had left work early the day before, and she wasn't there that day. And we had the buyer meeting the next morning. So she was going to be in early, and we were going to have the buyer meeting like first thing in the morning. And I wasn't going to be there because the buyer meeting started before I was scheduled to come into work.
And the buyer meeting is obviously, say, like a JCPenney's, coming in to meet with just what,
So I was like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. I saw something and I feel like I just need to tell you. Yeah. And she didn't text me back. And I was like getting ready to leave. And so there was a co-president, because there were so many brands that we owned. So there was a co-president for like, 50 brands, and there was another co-president for another 50 brands. Yeah. And she was the senior vice president of sales. So she was under the co-president, but she was like still same level, like C level executive. Yeah. And, but the co-president is the one who like made all of the final decisions. Like, if she was like, she delegated a lot and she trusted, but like if she was like really like set on something, she was going to make the final decision and like let the senior vice president know whether or not to move forward with that. And I was like, dang, I haven't like introduced myself to her yet. Like, I could just go introduce myself and say something. And I like called my boss again because she didn't respond to my text, and she didn't pick up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, I don't want to like go behind her back, because like I respect her, but like I just felt like I really needed to say this, because like I saw something that was super important that I didn't want to miss, or like miss my chance to say something about. It wasn't about me saying something. It was just about like, taking care of our buyer. Yeah. And like last minute I was like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, I don't need to be at this job anyways. Like, if I lose my job over this, so what? Yeah. Like, it's not that big of a deal to me. So I'm really nervous though. And I go in, I knock on the co-president's door, and I'm like, hey, I'm Nico. Like, I'm my boss's co-op, and I work with her, and I think you've seen me, but like, I just wanted to come in and like introduce myself. And she's like, oh, hey. She like looks up from her computer for like a second. She's like, hey, nice to meet you. Like, she asked me like some formality questions.
Yeah, small talk shit.
Yeah. And then she's like, okay. And she goes back to her work. And I was like, hey, so actually, like, I wanted to like bring something up with you because my boss is out. You know that. But like, you guys are going to have the meeting before I'm here tomorrow. And I just noticed something. So I was wondering if I could like show you real quick. Like, it doesn't matter if you use it or not. And she's like, yeah, sure. So she's like really welcomed it. My boss calls me into her office the next morning. She like closed the door, and she's like, I can't believe you would do something like that. I was like, I'm sorry. She was like, no. She was like, you are my intern, and like I need to know that I can trust you. Like, I can't have you going behind my back like that. And like, she was super serious. And she's like a very, very powerful woman. Yeah. And I respected her a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And then she like looks at her computer and she's like, I would have done the same thing though. You got some balls, kid. I was dying. So I was like, okay, like we have a mutual level of respect. But after that point,
Bro, that's like a fucking movie scene.
yeah. And bro, she was a character, like strong Long Island accent.
Just a badass woman.
Yeah, dude. And a lot of people were like really terrified of her. It was pretty funny, but she was like really sweet down at the core. But she was just so powerful. Like her presence like demanded attention when she came into the room. And after that moment, she never went to a meeting without me. Never. Yeah. Like if I had something to do, she'd be like, stop what you're doing. You're coming with me. I want to see what you have to say. I want to see what you see, because like you caught something that nobody else caught. And it was interesting because I felt like during this time, you know, people were trying to get to know me at work, and I wanted to tell them what I did. But every time I felt like I talked about like the company that just failed, I felt like a part of me was dying inside. And there was like this.
Your own company? Yeah.
Yeah. There was like this voice in my head that was like, stop talking about yourself. You only ever talk about yourself. People ask you questions, like you never ask you're not interested in what anyone else is doing. Like, and I started to realize like that narrative was kind of true, because in middle school and high school, I was in my head, and I had to be, because I was like getting rejected a lot. So I had to be in this world that didn't exist. And I didn't know if, I didn't even know if what I liked was actually, you know, special or not. I just knew that I liked it. And then when I went to college, I realized I was like leaps and bounds ahead of people as far as like what I wanted to do with my life and like taking steps in that direction. And then when I get to this office in Manhattan and I'd had all these crazy experiences, I was like, dang, this is like a repeating factor in my life. Like, I actually don't care about other people that much. Like, I'm not interested in what they have to say. I think I'm like way more intellectual than they are. I also took like, I don't mention this a whole lot, but like this fed into the narrative. I took an IQ test when I was in high school and scored like insanely high.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point right around between Singapore and Manhattan. I was like, I would always just like keep that tucked in the back of my head. It'd be like, I can just pull that on people whenever I want, because they're actually
to wow them.
Yeah.
To impress people.
In case anyone like, you know, ever wanted to have like an intellectual debate, it doesn't even matter.
No, I want to know.
It doesn't even matter. Let's just say I
don't even know if I've taken one, so I don't even know what the range is.
So it's on a bell curve.
Yep.
And like I'm far past average. So if you have a psychologically, like if you have an IQ, you're having a conversation with someone that has an IQ that differs by 20 points, it's really tough to have a conversation.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And I had a lot of trouble. Let's just say I had a lot of trouble having conversations with people before. Okay. So
we're having a good one right now, so I must be pretty up there, you know?
Exactly. So this was a really hard time for me, because I felt like I couldn't just have conversations with anyone. Like I was like, you know, people aren't as intellectual as me, and I almost like
just growing up, or in college,
especially in college. But like I almost like use that to like discriminate against people. It had nothing to do with like how they were raised, what their skin color was, what their economic background was. It was literally just intellect. And I was like, I can't be around people. I can't do small talk with people, whatever. And like I got used to having small talk. That's how I had to learn how to survive in Singapore.
Yeah. Because
I needed friends, and I sucked at small talk, but I had to learn how to be good at it. So I got to this point that I felt like every time I would like tell people about who I was, or like what I had done or where I had been, that it was just like killing a part of me. And I just like I just loathed the conversation. It was awful. So I would stop. I got into this like period of time of like starting in New York and leading well beyond it, where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to talk about myself. Yep. Not because I'm not interested in what I've done. Like it has been interesting, but I can't be the one sucking up all the air in the room all the time, because I'm not getting anything out of this. Like me telling my story is just trying to like relive a moment that I had in my past to make me feel better. because I don't feel good right now. And it was interesting because at that time it just like sucked so much. So I just started having conversations with like anyone and everyone, just like really small talk conversations, and I sucked at it a lot. And it didn't feel fulfilling whatsoever.
It's not.
But it didn't feel as bad as when somebody would ask me about myself and I would go into like a tandem about where my life had been and what I had done and who I was and how important I was.
I know what you mean.
And over time, I realized that I was less and less important in my own eyes, which was actually really good. It healed me a lot, and it enabled me to have like richer relationships with a lot of people.
Yeah.
While I'm in New York, I am really just like going to work. I'm still very depressed. I'm having like some terrifying dreams at night, like worse than like night terrors or sleep paralysis.
Think because of like stress induced?
I think it was some stress induced and some spiritual. And so I would just like go home and I wouldn't do anything. I wasn't really going out. My roommate, she was so sweet. She like invited me out a couple times because she realized like what a terrible condition I was mentally and emotionally. So she invited me out some, and she was like really nice. And then she moved out right after Christmas. I got a new roommate. He was kind of weird. He was a line cook at a Michelin star restaurant, and he was always gone.
Working a fuck ton.
Yeah. And when he was home, he wasn't interacting with us a whole lot. Like, he would just like to get drunk and play Scrabble.
And do you still live with your other friend?
No, I lived with the landlord lived in one of the rooms, and then there were two other rooms. So it was a 3-bed, 1-bath walk-up. But because they were like never there, it was pretty much like my whole apartment, which was really nice. I started going to church when I was in New York, and it was so strange, dude. Like, I'd walk into the church. So I found it by accident. I was listening to like an online sermon, but it wasn't the normal pastor. And I was like, I like this guy. Like, he doesn't sound like a pastor. He just sounds like just like a speaker. Yeah. Like, he's very charismatic. And I was like, I'm gonna look him up and like see what church he comes from. So he said Hillsong, and I was like, I feel like I've heard Hillsong before. And then I look it up, and it's like right downtown, like just 2 avenues away from where I work. And I'm like, I'm already up there. You know, I'm not up there on Sundays. I stayed away from Midtown like the plague when I didn't need to go up there for work. But like, you know, I'll go up there. Yeah. It's not that bad. So I started going, and I want to say in like either end of January or beginning of February. And bro, it was the strangest thing I had ever encountered. But like, I would go in, and every time I was like unable to control myself from crying, and I would just like cry the whole service. But it was weird because I'd come out, and it wasn't like a sad cry, and it wasn't like a happy cry. It was like a healing cry. So I'd like come out, and I'd feel like really refreshed. Yeah. And be like, dang, man, that feels good. Like, I don't know what this is, and I can't explain it because I'm not a crier. Yeah. And I wrote about in my book, like there was like this one thing that happened to me when I was, I think like 12 or 13. And I was like, I'm never going to cry again. Like, there's just no point to like waste sadness. I'm just going to like compartmentalize it and never deal with it again because I don't have to. And I didn't cry even when I felt like I had to cry when I was really stressed out. I didn't cry up until like this one time in Singapore. So I was going to this church every single Sunday in Manhattan, and I was crying like crazy. And then I started to realize like, oh, I kind of like the job that I'm working for. I like the people that I'm around. I don't really know what's going on in my life right now, but I want to just stay here. New York is 100 times better than Philly. Like, Philly's some trash. I don't want to go back. I don't want to be like, you know, I'm like a working adult now, and I like my life. Even if it's not super exciting, I don't want to go back to school. And on top of that, I was staring down the barrel of 100 credits to finish school, and the majority of them were engineering, higher level engineering classes. Yeah. And I was like,
how many credits per class at Drexel?
4.
4, okay.
For the most part.
Fuck, dude. So it was like 20 classes.
So yeah, it was 20 credits every single term until I finished. So 5 terms in a row. So basically 15 months of school straight through, no breaks.
Yeah.
And
It's
just,
a lot.
yeah, I was terrified. So I go back and I live with my friend who I lived with in Singapore, Drew. And he's like, yo, found a place. I was like really procrastinating getting in a place again. And I was like, I'm not sleeping out of the car again. I don't care. Like, I can't go back to that. So I ended up staying in this place with him. It was like super cheap. It's like, I think like $380, $400 a month.
Wow.
And it was a trap house, bro. Like absolute garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got into this routine. I had no friends. I mean, I had, like I had my friend Drew and I had Eric, but I felt like I was in a space, like I was in a void.
Yeah.
Like whether it was spiritually or emotionally, something was like off where I felt like no matter how much I interacted with people, I felt drained all the time. And I was like, I just need to get through it. I just need to survive. I just need to survive. I just need to survive.
Till the end of school.
So the first 6 months went by slow but fast. I moved into a new place that's way nicer, but way far off campus. And it was like a sanctuary. I had like a bedroom that was pretty big and it wasn't too expensive. And my roommates were actually really, really nice people. And it was the first time that I finally started like processing. I had just processed the last 2 years of my life, from the time that I left for Singapore to when I lived out of the car to when my business failed and I was overseas, and then going to New York and trying to figure myself out, and then coming back to school.
That's a fucking lot, man, in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's a long time to like finally start processing everything.
Yeah, but you're clearly one thing to the next, busy
Yeah.
as fuck, new experience, back home, school, new experience, figuring shit out.
Yeah.
Like,
so
it makes sense that it probably didn't even dawn on you to think about what had just happened, because you were just worried about what's coming up next.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, I'm a pretty introspective person, so I was always trying to process. But you're pretty incapable of processing something that just happened to you when you're encountering something brand new.
Yeah.
So moving to this place, buckled down for like the final 9 months of school, which was just, I had changed from engineering to finance at this point, because I was interested.
Was that because you had so many classes, or changing made you have that many classes left?
No, it was because, so I went into my academic advisor, because I was curious about a 3-credit course that might put me over, because I thought I had, like I was pretty like strict with everything. Like I was very on top of my schedule.
Yeah.
And I went in about a 3-credit. It was like a business philosophy class or something like that. And I was like, oh, this might put me over into the summer term. After I graduate, I'm going to have to stay here for another 12 weeks after I graduate to take this stupid philosophy class. And he was like, oh, no, because you're business and engineering, you haven't declared a minor yet, and like you're going to have another 16 credits on top of that. I was like, bro, when are you going to tell me this? Like, you knew my schedule was jammed to the end. Like, the plan was never to graduate late. Like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I must have missed it. I was like, oh, you missed it 2-3 years ago?
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say 4 straight fucking years.
So but honestly, so I was like, okay, I was like kind of
our lives have so many similarities, but keep going.
I was frustrated, but I was also happy, because I was like, this is a godsend. Like, I was like really considering changing to finance. I didn't want to study engineering anymore. I already had patented technology. I was like, it wasn't so much about like, oh, look at me and what I've done anymore. It was like, I feel like I've got what I need to get out of engineering, and I don't need to take these other classes that aren't contributing to the path that I'm focused on going with my life. And I want to learn more about finance, because I saw how good the robotics company was with their finances corporately, and how terrible the fashion company was, or the supply chain management company was with their finances. I was like, if I'm going to, I was still planning, like, I'm going to run a business one day. I need to know how to manage finances corporately. And I was like, so what are my options? And he was like, well, you can change to a business major, and you can either go supply chain or you can go finance. And I was like, let's go finance. So I buckled down these last 9 months, straight like all higher level finance courses for the following 3 terms. And I had 4 heavy upper level finance courses every single term. And I got connected with just like a college church there, which was like really not super. I didn't feel like I had friends there, I should say, but I just felt like I had some type of community because I wasn't trying to like go out and like party and be wild anymore. But I also wasn't trying to just like go to church. Like I just wanted to like hang out with people. I just wanted to be in the presence of people, really. And then I met some of my closest friends that I have now in the final term that I had in finance. So it was a spring term before we graduated, 2019, and still very close friends with all of them today. We graduate. I had been applying for jobs for 3 or 4 months already, didn't have anything, but some of my other friends didn't have anything. So I was like, all right. Get this weird job interview that goes really well, went through multiple rounds, and they were like, okay, we're going to start you the beginning of next month. Like, this will be your package. Like, we're just going to, like, your salary package, your bonus package. Like, this is just what, we're going to send you the rest of the details over at the end of this week. And I was like, sweet. Like, pretty much got a job. My 2 friends, Zach and Luke, were like, yo, let's go to Japan. I was like, we had committed before I had gotten the confirmation that I was getting the job, like literally like 2 days before. Because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this job. I don't want to make a commitment if I can't, like you guys are putting the money down to pay for this.
Because
they wanted to, there was like some special deal going on. They were like, don't worry about it. Like, if you don't get the job, like you can just pay us back whenever. If you do get the job, like great, but like it's not a big deal. Like we want you to come with us. And I was like, I mean, I want to come too. So we go to Japan, and then while I'm in Japan, they send me an email, and they're like, oh, sorry, but we're actually deciding to go with someone else. I'm like, how did you, like, what? You already told me I got the job.
Yeah.
Like I have an email confirmation that I got the job and that you're sending me the rest of the details later, and now you're saying no? Like, what is this? So I talked to my employer in Singapore because I still was in contact with the president. He was like, I'll refer you to the position that you're looking at in Japan. It was the same position I did in Singapore. And then the HR manager was like, oh, no, we're going to go with somebody who's more qualified. I'm like, bro, what do you mean? I did the same exact role. And it just happened time and time again. Like I was getting all of these rejection letters from companies, like entry-level positions, that were saying like I wasn't qualified enough.
Bro, entry-level requirements are, in my mind, ridiculous. It shouldn't be entry-level.
Yeah.
Because they're always asking for this fucking amount of experience, which most people probably don't even have.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I always think, okay, well, they're just putting that down to hopefully get people who have that, and then they'll probably obviously take the best candidate, so apply anyways. But if you're looking for an entry-level job, but it is like, it's kind of ridiculous sometimes. Yeah. 2 or 3 years experience in this and that, and it's like, it's a fucking entry-level job. This is supposed to be the first experience.
Yeah.
Maybe you had a little bit in college, but if someone didn't, whatever, they didn't know what they wanted to do, and then they figure that out after, you can get fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, and dude, that was frustrating for me because I worked the entire time I was through college, and a lot of it wasn't.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off again, but you're clearly we're doing a lot of shit, more than most people.
Yeah.
Probably nationwide. So like you had experience.
Bro, it was so
more than normal.
So frustrating. And then it's I get back from Japan middle of September, and it's like going into October. I still don't have a job. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" Like I'm at home now. I'm getting roasted by my parents, and I applied for this job. For like they're like a financial advisory firm, but not really. Like they don't actually manage any of the money. It's pretty creative, actually.
Who is it? What is it called?
I don't want to say just in case, like,
no problem.
for the listeners, because I'm gonna like tell you about like what happened in the interview process. I go through 4 interviews. In the final interview, I make it to the final interview, and it's in DC. So I drive to DC. I'm super excited, and it's a pretty small team. They only have like 2 major locations. One's in New York, one's in DC, and they're opening up the office beginning of 2020 in DC. So October 2019. there's two sets of interviews. There's one first interview is with the founder and with the CFO, and then the other one is with the CMO and the CTO. And they're like incredible people. I go through the interview process and they're like I wasn't trying to impress them.
Yeah.
I was literally just like saying what I knew from previous experience at work and like what my values were and like as an employee and things like that. And they were like, you literally like read off our handbook to us. Like, you're perfect for this job. And I was like, cool. I didn't really want the position that they were giving, but I was like, you know what? Like, I can take this.
Yeah.
It gives me a salary, and then I can, you know, like, I'll just do the same thing that I did in New York. Like, I'll do my work and do the very best I possibly can, and then I'll shadow them and I'll get, you know, I'll like.
This wasn't an intern position, right?
No, but like I'll shadow them and I'll stay curious and like provide my feedback to them, and like maybe in like a year or something I can like either pivot off of this into like a management position because they had such a small team, or it'll lead me to something else. And they were like, so the shadow was supposed to be virtual.
Yeah.
This is before COVID or anything, but they just said it was easier because it was for unless you were in New York, like they were just going to do a virtual shadowing or like shadowing for
and you were
week.
still living at home.
Yeah, and I was like, I have a couple friends in New York. Like I was planning to come up there anyways. Would you be opposed to me shadowing in office?
Mm-hmm.
And the CFO was like, no, that would be amazing. Like, we would actually prefer you to be there so that you can like, we can get an idea of who you are. And like, after we do the shadow, then we'll decide the 100% whether or not you get the job, just because we want to make sure you're going to be the right fit for the team. It's not just about like, do you have the qualifications or not? I'm like, sweet. I pretty much got this job, you know, like I'm confident in my ability to like work with a team and work with the clients. I'm driving.
I want to back up for a sec. So this is after Japan.
Yeah.
You went there on the vacation.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to get a job there.
Yeah.
And then coming back, this is the next potential hiring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So
you were driving.
I leave DC at like 10:30, 11 at night, and I'm driving on the Beltway, and my car breaks down.
Fuck.
And I got like, it was terrifying, bro. I was on this highway, like underneath of a bridge, like coming up underneath of a bridge, like turning, and I was on the inside lane. It was scary.
At night?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm in DC, like I can't do anything.
Yeah.
People are like honking at me. I'm like, I wouldn't have my blinkers on if I could move.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting in the middle of the highway for no reason. So I call my dad, and he's like, oh, like, there's nothing I can do. Like, just call a towing company. I'm like, gosh dang it, man. I'm already so broke. Like, you know, I can't do anything. And so I call the towing company, and they're like, we'll send someone out, but they might not be there for a couple hours.
Yeah. And
it's like 11 already. I'm like, bro.
That's dangerous.
What is going on? Like, what is happening in my life? Like, nothing was working up until this point. I was so mad. And I just sat in that car, and I was like so impatient. And I just knew, like, I was like, I am not getting this job. Like, I just knew it.
The finance one that they loved you?
That I just was like pretty confident I was going to get the job. Like, I just had this like an intuition. Like, I knew I was not going to get the job.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I was actually forced to sit and just wait. And I had nothing to do. It was way late at night. And I was like, it was the first time I was like recognizing, like, I was kind of like, I was trying to make things happen on my own. And God was like taking me another direction entirely, because leading up to before I graduated, my mom, of all people, who like has never been, I don't want to say, like, she's been supportive of me, but she's never been like super adamant about me going into business for myself, which is funny because both of my parents are independent business owners.
Yeah. Because she knew the struggles of it, or just?
I think just because like the way that they learned is like, you go, you work, and like, for the most part, like, that's true. Like, you know.
So she wanted you to work under somebody.
Yeah, a story like Zuckerberg is like just like 1 in like 10 billion.
Oh, for sure. It's hard
and-
for us to realize that too, just with technology. Any of those guys, like that's like whenever the oil
Yeah.
or the steel, like those richest dudes in the fucking world of the country, like we were alive during the internet.
Yeah.
The creation of that. So those are the next
Yeah.
richest whatevers in the world. 10 of them,
Exactly.
5 of them only.
And it's funny because even kids who are products of like super wealthy parents, they can take loans from their parents and they can try to start a business for themselves, but it does not mean like
It's gonna work.
you're gonna have a successful business. And
Yeah.
what happens a lot of the times is like the misconception is for like the middle or lower class, like, oh, if I had the money to do this, then I would blah blah blah. But no, you would not. If you don't know how to manage your personal finances, you can't manage the finances of a company.
Yeah.
You can't like a company
great
is not
point.
about you and your vision. As much as it's built on your vision, it's not about you and your vision. It's not about like, let's give the glory to like the founder of the company. Like that wasn't Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg's plan. Like, let me create something for myself so that I can be the next CEO. Like,
Yeah.
Big
It's for
baller.
others.
It's for others. And people largely misconceive. They're like, oh, a business is about me and what I can do. But it's actually how many other people can you serve? So many people think when I start a business, I'll be my own boss.
Yep.
I'm not working for other people. Actually, you just have more people to serve. You have more bosses. Your client is your boss. They tell you what they want, and if you don't give them what they want, then you have no customer. Like
Yeah.
A plus B equals C. It's simple. So like I'm at this point where I don't want to go back into entrepreneurship because I'm still bitter and hurting from the last venture that had failed. And I worked for I didn't mention this earlier, but when I moved back from Manhattan, I worked for another startup company in automotive tech that actually had connections to Tesla
In your hometown?
in Philly.
In Philly?
And they were doing like a great job, and they hired me as like business development and strategy.
Yeah.
And it felt like everything I brought to them, they were like, oh, we love this, but we're not going to do it. We're going to do this instead. And we would go into meetings and I'd be like, we discussed like what we were going to talk about. You don't have to take my strategies or my advice or any of the work that I do, but like I'm not coming to work just to like give you papers that you're going to throw in the fire. Like that's a waste for me and for
Fucking
you.
shredder.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like I don't
quit
want
them?
Well, they were moving into a fundraising round, and I just was like, I'm moving into that was right when I changed to finance, and I was like, there's no way I can possibly work and do finance full time, because like if I finance classes, if I like get even a C in one of the higher level classes, I don't get to pass on. Like that's how Drexel worked. If I didn't get a C minimum in one of the higher level classes, then I couldn't pass on to the next higher level class, which would push me into the summer. So I was like, okay, like I don't really see my future with this company anyways. And they ended up like doing kind of well, actually. They ended up doing a partnership with UPenn, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but always glad to hear like a company that I've
Was
been
that good
working
news
with.
afterwards? Yeah.
So
No, like hard feelings or animosity.
Yeah.
Just wasn't
No,
wasn't a fit.
I loved the people that I worked with. It was another frustrating experience, and I was like, I am so sick and tired of like trying to be. I felt like growing up, I never tried to be extraordinary.
Yeah.
I was just always like, kind of like a whoa factor to other people. People were like, why you have so many interests? Or like, oh, you've done things that like a lot of other people don't do. And it was never like super impressive for me. And then
Just what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And then I felt like it was at a point now where I almost felt like I was trying to be extraordinary just from like the desires that I had. And I was misconstruing those as saying like, oh, just because I have these interests doesn't mean that I'm trying to be extraordinary. But I was really trying at this time I was like trying so hard to be normal.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want a job. I don't want to have to dream anymore. And like, that's kind of a sad place to be.
Yeah.
Where you're like so sick and tired of like hoping and dreaming for the future.
And your fire inside was totally
Yeah.
gone for a moment.
Yeah. And I was like, I just want to work for a company and
Feel casual, feel normal.
yeah, and like, have a sense of security for once in my life, and like have some type of income where I'm not like always wondering where it's coming from next. So leading up to this,
when I'm leading up to graduation, I'm looking for jobs, and my mom, of all people, sends me this link, and she's like, hey, I thought you might be interested in this because you're looking at going back to Singapore. There's this company, you can work remotely anywhere in the world, but you could also work in one of their offices if you want to go into the office. I was like, that's sick. Like, I don't know. I like to have an office. I don't like to like work in my house because I feel more structured, but like I'll check them out. Turns out that they were like more along the lines of like a venture capital company, but they were hiring at the time, and they were hiring interns almost as like or not interns. They were hiring entrepreneurs, and the startup would work for the company. Like they would have the structure of the venture capital organization, kind of like Y Combinator, but it was like remote. So you could apply anywhere in the world. And I was like, dang, this is really cool actually. And it was like the first time that I started recognizing like God was like taking me back in that direction. And I was like, I don't want to go there. Like I already pursued a dream to like the point where I felt like I was dead inside for a really long time. I'm not going back there. So when I'm sitting in the car on the Beltway, this is like the first time I start to see like, oh, even like every single door has been like jammed shut in my face. Like even how can the president of a company that I used to work for, who advocated for me, not open up a position for me at one of the locations because the HR manager's like, nope, sorry, we're going with someone else. Like, how does that happen? I don't know. I mean, it just, well, I don't want to say I don't know how it happened, but you know, like they still have the ability to like exercise their discretion. But even still, you know, you would think a lot of the times if somebody that high up advocated for you, then they would at least like give you an interview. They didn't even give me an interview. They were just like, nope.
Do you feel like, was it the same company? See, I didn't understand that. So the company who was going to hire you then turned their back on you was the same company.
Oh, no.
In Singapore?
Oh, yeah. Same company as in Singapore.
Do you think he like was just appeasing you and like?
No, I think he actually sent it in because he sent me an email after I met him in Singapore and said, we'd love to have you on our team. Let me know when you graduate.
Yeah. So it just didn't work out.
And he responded to me when I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah, sure, definitely. So I'm sitting in the car, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to make things happen for myself here, and I'm clearly going a different way than like the plans that God has for me right now. And I'm not saying, because I don't know, like, you know, everyone has a different belief system.
Yeah.
But I
want to get into yours later.
I'm not saying that you can't go your own way. You definitely can. But sometimes you end up in places that you were never meant to be by going that way. And I was like learning how to like, I was like, I don't really have a plan anymore. I'm kind of just coasting. Like I wanted to stay away from like anything that would arise, like bring up hopes and dreams in my life because I was so bitter. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just not applying for jobs anymore. I don't even care. I don't know what's happening right now. I don't know. Like I just felt like so lost and so purposeless, and I was broke. I couldn't even like pay off like the debts that I had for my student loans. I don't even know. To be honest with you, I don't even remember how I paid for those because I know my parents didn't pay for them. But I think it was just like odd and end work that I would like go like clean somebody's yard or cut down some trees. That's what happened.
Just some small random shit.
So, pretty lost. And then I get a part-time job working at a parts delivery company to pay off the rest of my credit card debt from everything that I had accumulated in Japan and to pay my friends back, which was like so unlike me. I was like always trying to stay on top of everything. Pay that back. And literally I get my last paycheck and I was like, you know what? I don't really know what's going on right now. It was like the beginning of May. I was out back with my family. I was finally like just enjoying where I was at in life. I was like, you know what? Like if this is where I'm going to be for a little bit, like I'm not going to be mad about it. And that was something that took me a long time to get used to because I was always like, I want what I want for my life and I'm not going to accept anything else.
Yeah.
And that is a tough place to be because your character isn't developing like that. You know, like I look back on myself now and I'm like, dang, I was kind of a spoiled brat. not because of like what my parents had provided for me, but because I was so stubborn that I wasn't accepting where I was at in life at that season and being okay with that.
You thought you were like, oh, I'm better than this.
Yeah.
Or I should be somewhere else.
Yeah. And like, this isn't actually happening, almost like in a denial, but like not in denial. Like I knew it was happening. I was just like, this is stupid. So I was finally at a place like in May of this year, where I was like, you know what, whatever happens, happens. So like I go inside, I was sitting out on the back deck with my family, and I go inside, I'm just like reading through my Bible a little bit, and like God just like spoke to me like clear as day. And when I say he like spoke to me, it's not like an audible voice. Yeah. It's like intuition.
Because I hear people say that all the time, and like I think we've talked about this before. I'm not super religious. You know, I grew up Lutheran, whatever.
Yeah.
Still don't really quite know what I believe in 100%. Even though I went to a private school that was Catholic, but they were not like a strict, there was no requirement other than like 2 theology classes that were, you know, some it could have been a nun was teaching it or like a brother, but mine was just professors.
Okay.
So they were just like, honestly, they were kind of cool classes, but yeah, I just haven't been there yet, or figured that out for myself. Yeah. But I remember being because I did take confirmation as a kid. I just remember people saying like, oh, speak to God, like talk to God. And I remember always thinking, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean when you say that, speak to God?
Same.
So yeah.
It's definitely.
So you just felt it like, do you just feel it as like a really strong thought that comes into your head? Yeah.
So the best way I know how to describe it is, this is going to be a weird comparison, but like, did you ever watch Spy Kids?
Yeah.
Do you remember how like they did telepathy with one another and like they could hear their voices? They could hear like one of those voices in their head, but it's like quiet.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way because like it's a thought that you I knew it wasn't me. And part of the reason I knew it wasn't me is because I never wanted to come to LA, bro. Never. Like I was in no rush to get here. I had a couple friends. Most of them don't live here anymore, but like they used to live out here, and I always said I was going to come visit them, and I never did because I was like, I just don't want to be in LA. Like I'm not, I don't need to be around the clout. I don't need to, especially after going through the season that I was in where I felt more important than I actually was. I didn't need to be around a bunch of other people who were like, oh, I'm actually way more important than I actually am. And like just all the clout chasing and like the self-inflated sense of importance and whatnot. And I was like, no, like, and this isn't really where I want to go with my career anyways. Like it's more film and music and stuff like that. So, and I love the big cities, but I also love the beach.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting alone and hear the voice of God like clear as day. And he's like, would you go to LA for me? And it just like stops me dead in my tracks. And I'm like, yeah, I would. But like, I never wanted to go there. But like, I was at a point where I was like fully in surrender, where I was just like, I'll go anywhere you want me to. Because anything that you have planned for me is clearly better than what's going on in my life right now. Especially like me trying to like, I'm encountering so much rejection and so much failure that it's got to be better than like what I've gone through in the last couple months.
And just to know, you didn't even become that religious until you were saying that experience in Singapore. Right?
Yeah, but it wasn't like an immediate onset. It was like a lot of learning over time. And I write about in my book what it's like and like how I just despised religion and how I'm still kind of like I wouldn't even call myself religious. I would just say that I am like in a healthy relationship with God.
Yeah.
And he's in a healthy relationship with me.
That's cool.
Religion is all about rules and structure so that you can, it says, do this so you can get to God. And God says, no, come to me first so that I can get to you.
Yeah.
And we as human beings just don't think like that. But we do at the same time. Like if we look at it from like the standpoint of like a parent with their child, they're not saying, I'm giving you a set of rules so that you can like come get something from me. No, it's, I love you. I want to take care of you. But religion takes that takes that relationship away, and it says in order to get to, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then there are some clauses under X or Y or Z that you have to fulfill because you didn't fulfill these three.
So do you think like man is basically just interfering for self-fulfilling?
Definitely. Yeah. It's just like, I would say like an inferior wisdom, because like we really feel like we know so well all the time. So we adjust the human experience based on our own experiences, or like our own intellectual capacity, our own experiences. And like, you know, there's so many different religions and there's so many different denominations, and everyone, like even now, like in just like everyday culture, people are like, oh, I speak my truth. But like, if there's so many truths, like what's the the line between like true and false? Like, how do you really tell? So the lines are becoming more and more blurred.
I feel that.
And people actually want, like, I don't want to say a singular truth, but something that they can hold on to that says this is true, which makes this false.
Yeah.
We don't want to say, well, sometimes this is true and sometimes this is false. Like, that's way too confusing. We don't follow rules like that. We need clear instructions. And if the instructions aren't whole proof or foolproof, then we say, okay, let's look at how we redefine these instructions to make it clear.
Yeah.
To make it clear. But it's funny that like with anything that is tied to belief, it's just like, oh, let's just accept what anyone says. And that's not to, there's this like fear almost that's attached with that if you say, okay, well, we can't just accept if we can't accept people for what they believe, then we hate them, or, you know, we clearly think that they're inferior. That's not it at all. It's just holding on to something that's like structured and sound, so that we can cut away all that's not important. It's not about shaming anyone.
Yeah.
It's not about condemning anyone. It's just about holding on to something that's true and everlasting, rather than like fading. And it's so funny because the higher up you go in influence, the greater impact your decisions have on people around you. And it's funny because every single kingdom that has ever existed in the history of the world has always thought that they were smarter than the previous kingdom.
Yeah.
And as soon as they start thinking that, they start repeating exactly what the previous kingdom
mistakes
did. Because they're like, oh, we would never do that. We live in a new age where we didn't have this and that. Technology has not changed the human condition.
Yeah.
It's just exacerbated it.
It's funny you say that, because I don't worry, but that comes to my mind sometimes, literally about our country, the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, just shit you see, whatever. The world's obviously fucked up right now, and all these things. And obviously it's not that old of a country, but I mean, Great Britain, whatever, they were our colonizers. So it just makes me think time to time, like, when is our time going to be where we were the superpower for 100 years, whatever? Because it's been like 100 years now. Okay, well, like, when is that? No longer.
It's a good question. And, you know, there's like the religious people who are coming out of the woodworks, and they're like, oh, this is the end times and blah, blah, blah. But like
every year.
Just like every year, just like when people thought the world was going to end in 2012.
I remember that, because I think I was going to a concert that day. And as a kid, you're like, this isn't real, but like, is it a little bit real? I don't know.
I remember thinking that there was a girl in my in my class, and she was like, the world's going to end tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. We were freshmen in high school, I think. I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care, because like if I'm out of existence tomorrow, like I can't be mad about it, you know?
Exactly.
So
if she really believed that, what the fuck is she doing at school? That's what comes to my mind.
For real though. So yeah.
Gonna go to school the last day of your life?
Yeah. But
she's lying.
But yeah, it's a valid question. It's a valid concern. But a lot of the times what we see is smoke and mirrors for actually what's happening behind the scenes. And that is something that is important to apply to the information that you take in, not just what you read, but what you see and what you hear. You know, like we're so like as a generation that's so built on statistic and fact, we're so quick to believe a source that hasn't done their resource.
Yeah, that's
their
that's
research.
annoying today. I feel like in the past, at least the interpretation I get is that all these major, New York Times, Washington Post, which I'm sure they mostly still do fact check, but I feel like because of social media and all these other like fast-paced things that they have had to change how they work so they don't fact check maybe themselves as much.
Yeah.
Because they're competing. So it's almost as that they've just turned into a social media.
Yeah.
At least the speed that they're trying to provide information.
Yeah.
Which I get it because it's a business. You're getting beat by Twitter. People are tweeting. So people are like, I honestly use Twitter for a lot of news.
Yeah.
I don't watch the news.
Same.
I don't read the newspaper.
Same.
Most of my news I'll see, honestly, I'll just go to Twitter, trending, or just news, whatever.
Yeah.
I know often it's not true or whatever. And I'm sure you noticed this too, being abroad. I'm sure you heard things about where you're going or the people or the culture that you're like, you found out when you go, this isn't fucking true at all.
Yep.
And then that was the first, you could say, crack when I was abroad and being in London and just traveling around Europe, like realizing just the American media lies so much, and just things that are said about other people around the world or whatever, like it's over exaggerated. There might be a little bit of truth, but they blow it up like way worse than it is, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to believe anything. I wish there was something that came out. Obviously, they wouldn't deliver the news probably as fast because they would have to fact check. Like, I wish there was something that came out that you could 100% trust. Like, there was some regulation put in place.
Yeah.
Like, they'd get in trouble if they were lying. I don't fucking know. I don't know if that would ever work. Probably not. But I don't fucking know.
Yeah. It causes extreme anxiety among people, and like people have a right to be cynical. Like nobody wants to be like bamboozled or like hoodwinked by anything. And getting back to what we were originally talking about, like the whole concept of like belief is like that's part of the reason that I was just like, I acknowledge God more or less, but there's so many reasons to be skeptical or cynical, especially when you like encounter situations that go the other way, and like you have a hope or a belief or like faith, like you're like something that's really popular here in LA is people talk about manifesting all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to understand the diction behind manifest, because it's not separate. But manifesting is a form of faith, because if you're putting energy, future hope into an idea or something that doesn't yet exist, God honors faith and it manifests. And that's like, a general principle of life.
Yeah.
That's like,
I feel like that's where honestly manifestation, whatever, people who think, and I do this myself, whatever, I try to at least, think about something, put your energy towards it, actually act on it, not just think about it, because that's a totally different thing. But and just make it like conscious to yourself and your decisions. But I also feel like, or I've come into the thought in the last year or so, probably honestly maybe from talking with you, prayer, like I don't pray, but I feel like that if you're constantly praying for something, you're basically manifesting it. So I'm sure you're constantly thinking about it. Yeah. Someone who prays maybe every night, if you're praying for something specific over and over and over again, in my mind at least, that's kind of the same thing. Yeah. You're still just thinking about it. You're just going about it and asking about it, or asking for it, and having thoughts about it in a slightly different way, but you're still focused on something that you want. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And if you like eventually over time, like you take it even a step further, where you're not just praying and saying those things over and over again and like, putting energy towards it, but like you're actually trusting that the higher power, the God who loves you and takes care of you, is going to be the one who like makes those avenues possible in your life. So it's not just you manifesting for yourself. It's like if like prayer isn't like what you learn in church a lot of times. It's literally just communion with God.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know who to say this to right now, but I'm not talking to myself. I just need to say this out loud because I know that there might be somebody listening.
Yeah.
And like that's been the case for a lot of people over time. Like, you know, we're always looking for like and I'm extremely analytical. So like after this experience that I had in Singapore, which if you want to learn more about it, because I know we've been talking for a while, but if you want to learn more about it, I wrote a book where
Yes, plug
it's
it.
very thorough, but it's also very entertaining is what a lot of people say. I have yet to receive a bad review, so if you read it, please write a bad review, and that's how I'll know I wrote a good book. But
That's how you know this.
Yeah.
Maybe reach somebody, actually.
Yeah. But it's called The One Who Follows, and it's on Amazon. And I don't know if you're posting this, but I can give you it's a quick link.
Yeah, send me the link. I'll definitely post it because I'll be posting this on YouTube. And is it available? I'm going to read it, I promise. I still have not gotten to it, though. Is it available for audiobook?
It's not available for audiobook yet, but it's available on Kindle and paperback.
Get to it.
Yeah. So what was I saying?
Your experience in Singapore.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't just like I said earlier, it wasn't like a dramatic change immediately because I was so like analytical and cynical. I was like, I need to make sure I'm believing the right thing. Because I was like, I'm not just joining another religion. Like I grew up in the church and I was like appalled to see people who never practice what they preach. Like you can't, like as a kid, children are so intuitive.
They're
like
observant.
we're not as gullible a lot of the times as adults think we are. So we can see when people are not putting something to practice that they're like telling you to do.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot of times, especially in like really strict religious households or environments or things like that.
You were strict in religion growing up?
What?
Was your family strict on you with religion growing up?
My family wasn't strict with religion, but I just felt like the church was always like so. We didn't even go to the same church the whole time I grew up. Like we switched churches a good bit. And I just always felt like there was like a group of people who were like holier than thou. Like I'm a kid.
They were better than you.
Like don't come at me crooked. Like I'm a 15-year-old kid. Like you say you haven't done the same thing. So I didn't need to be around people like that. And so my mom was actually the one who like forced me to go to church every single Sunday. So like, if I didn't get up, I was pretty much dead. But which
Did she go herself?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
And I appreciate that because like the structure and the discipline. But if it hadn't been for her, I probably would have stopped going to church when I was like 12 or 13 because I was like, I don't need to be around this. But that was something that I was really focused on because I was like, okay, I had this very real encounter with God. Why is it that this is the right religion? Like Christianity per se is the right religion? Because I was still cynical and skeptical. I was like, you know what? Like there are other religions that say like a lot of the same things. And I really did a lot of research. And there were two things that really impacted me more than any other thing. There was a speaker, his title, he's called an apologist, and his name is Ravi Zacharias. And he just does like brilliant mind. And he does a great job of breaking down psychology, theology, ideology, etymology, anything that ends with ology. He can break it down. And like, there are people who like, he speaks all over the world. He actually just died this year, but he speaks all over the world. And there are people who ask brilliant questions that would debilitate a lot of religious people.
Yeah, religious
and
leaders.
He's just like so kind, and like the way he explains things just makes so much sense. And he's able to hit on all these points that nobody's been able to answer, at least on public television, the way that we've seen them before. So I listen to him a lot. as an intellectual. And then there was a movie that I saw about an atheist dude who tried to disprove Jesus's existence, who was like the head journal. He was like the leading columnist for the Chicago Times in the 70s, I want to say. And the movie's called A Case for Christ. And it's about his life, and it's insane. It's like mind blowing. It really broke me down. And I was like, okay, these are some things like I wasn't willing to accept within my own psychology. I was like, purposely, not purposely, but almost purposely putting on the blinders to this area and making arguments to surround this so that this area couldn't be touched. And after seeing that movie, it took a lot of that away, and that's when things started to change. But people, like I was saying, people have a right to be cynical and question things, because that's how we get clear answers. And we're moving into an era of time where you're not allowed to question for the fear of maybe being like silenced or rejected. Like cancel culture is rampant right now, but it's from not asking enough questions and saying like, I was out with my girlfriend the other day, and I did something like really playful. We were with a group of people. I did something really playful with somebody in the group, and that person like thought I was like trying to personally attack them. And I was like I'm like pretty close with this person, and I was like, I never in a million years like, I'd never hurt you. Yeah. And it dawned on me in that moment.
Was it like physical or just like verbal
No.
words?
It was words, but it was like
joking around with someone.
It was just like it was like a joke that you would only make with someone you really care about.
Yeah.
And if it was the first time I recognized that if you're loved and you're loved and you love yourself, you'll never take anything out of context and think that you're trying to be attacked. But if you're holding on to bitterness or offense and somebody makes a loving gesture towards you, they'll misconstrue it as an attack. And that's what's happening in cancel culture a lot now, because we're trying to find one truth that we were talking about earlier, so that we can cut up all the fat around, except it's so hypocritical, because if we can't honor other people and we can't joke around with other people, and it's a lot of it is motive, but nobody in our generation knows how to discern motive anymore. They just hear something and they're like, oh, that's clearly an attack on this person or that person. They don't even know that person or this person.
Yeah, you're saying they just take it out of context.
I'm not, I'm not saying like you shouldn't be like kind to other people, but what's so fascinating is we put the term political correctness is putting kindness and respect and honor, like all of the moral values that we want to uphold, into the institution that we trust the least, because we don't trust politics. We're so but we call it political correctness. Yeah. So why do we put something that we want so much in the institution that we trust the least? And nobody has an answer for that right now, because we're trying to find that truth that's holding us steady, rather than just shifting around. And we're longing for something that's more stable. We just don't know what it is yet. Yeah. And nobody yet has stood up with a voice that's been bold enough that displays those characters. We had MLK displaying those characters and those values in his generation. And now we're looking for people to put back in those positions, except we're in a new era now where we don't just have like A-list celebrities anymore. We have B-list, C-list, whatever. We have influencers.
Fame has changed so much, I feel.
Yeah, we have TikTokers. We have political figureheads. We have so many people, whereas before it was just like, a handful of people who were relevant.
It's kind of like politicians and just actors and fucking musicians. And
exactly.
Yeah, there wasn't all this other YouTubers, social media stars, who some of them today are just as famous. Yeah. Or if not more.
Exactly. So we're moving into this era where we can't put people on pedestals anymore, because as soon as you make a man or a woman your god, you just as easily push them off the pedestal for doing something that you don't agree with. Yeah. And then you get mad at them because they didn't do something
I
that
wanna
you
tear
agreed
them
with,
down.
but you put them on the pedestal in the first place. So it's like a maturing character development.
Yeah.
It's a maturing personality
I
development.
feel like of our whole society.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes in line with what I was saying, like, when is our downfall?
Yeah.
But it reminds you, or at least it reminds me, okay, clearly the internet and social media, like, is fucking huge.
Yeah.
And we are probably the last generation that grew up with it, but I'm sure you still remember before it.
Yeah.
Like, I think I got on MySpace in like 6th grade.
Yeah.
So I remember some memory before that, but that's like, kids today will never remember. Kids that are young today growing up will never remember life
Yeah.
before these things. Yeah, I kind of lost where I was going with that, but it sounds like it's funny because it kind of relates to what I was just talking with Antoine. Is we were talking about there should almost be a whole new social media where you put on everything, your failures and your success.
Yeah.
So then when you do fail, it's not like this catastrophic, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how did you fail so hard?
Yeah.
Like, cause all you do as an individual is post all your positive shit.
Yeah.
And then if you're a public person, which obviously you do to yourself usually, you choose a career that is public, but as soon as you fail, and then it's a public knowledge, and you've never shown to the public any sort of failure of yours or whatever, then it's going to be like this big fucking thing. Where if you just showed little failures or whatever along the way, then it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like,
yeah,
okay, he didn't do this right again. He did that before, and it wasn't no big deal. But again, like I was saying with him, obviously, no one really wants to post publicly their shitty moments or their failures.
And that doesn't change overnight, bro. Like, what, a lot of people don't see, and I'm not going political at all here. I'm just like pointing out a point of reference over the last 4 years. Like, a lot of people don't see any good that's come out of Trump being president. I remember when I was in Singapore when he got elected, and I was like, this is like, we're like in a sitcom or like, a false reality TV show.
You were in Singapore when he got elected?
When he got elected, yeah.
So you're in Singapore. When I was in London, did they talk a lot of shit?
No, people were just like, oh, you're American. How do you feel about Trump being your president? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we had two people who the younger generation nobody really wanted. So I don't, we just got one of them.
That was basically my answer.
It's like 50-50.
Exactly.
But what I was going to say is if there's been one good thing that's come out of him being president, it's that people are no longer putting all of the responsibility on leaders and saying, you need to fix this and you need to do that. That is a devil that the American dream has created. Like, it's so like, oh, I'm helpless and my vote doesn't count and I can't do anything, therefore I'm going to make somebody who has influence do it. No, step up and do something. Like, if you're adamant about something,
that's
like
true.
if you're committed to a cause, you better be willing to die for it. And people hate to hear that now because they don't want to put any skin in the game. But like, that is where purpose comes from. And everyone wants to be liked, and everyone wants to say like, oh, these are my positive experiences and my life is beautiful. But then you go and talk to that person and you're like, I'm not getting the same story that your Instagram is
bro, you see that all the time out here.
Is posing. So when I wrote my book, actually, I learned about cancel culture when I moved out here to LA, like, well, right around then. My brother is a signed music artist, so he's a little bit more like in that realm than I am.
Yeah.
But when I wrote my book, I almost wrote my book like anti-fame, like anti-popularity, because I was talking about all of my failures and like I don't want to say like woe is me, like I'm such a despicable person, but like all of the wrongs and the shortcomings and the failings I had, because I wrote the book not for people to hear that about me, but so that people could read that book and be like, I need to start talking about my life more.
Yeah.
Like, your story is interesting. And I wrote that book so that I could stop talking about myself, and that I could just get back into regular relationship with people. And so that people can read this and be affected by that and say, you know what, like, I had some similar experiences, and I never told anybody about that failure because I was so ashamed of it. I was scared that I was going to be rejected for it. Like, people need to hear these things, because if all we're hearing is positive, positive, positive all the time, what happens is it's just neutral. And the same thing that's happening with Instagram is it's just a dopamine center. It's an addiction center where people log in and they're like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. I like this a little bit more. I'm going to favorite it. And then everything just becomes gray. And there's not really any change. There's no dips. There's no peaks. There's nothing. Life becomes static, and it's not dynamic whatsoever. And we have like this desire as human beings for adventure and change and like the excitement of life. And people are trying to find that in different ways, whether it's through like drugs or like being wild. And I definitely excelled at all of that stuff and doing crazy stuff because I was looking for something more adventurous, and I wasn't taking life as it came to me. I was trying to set the parameters on my life and the controls on my life and set what every other person thought of me, and I was creating a false narrative and a false agenda for my life. And I was so committed to it that you could have told me that you did that before and it didn't work, and I'd be like, yeah, but that's you. I'm going to do this for me because I'm going to make it happen. And I was foolish, and I'm glad I fell hard because there was my life legitimately sucked. Like, I had incredible experiences, and like I look back on them with fondness, but it actually sucked, and I was miserable. And there was nothing in the world that could actually satisfy me. And a lot of our generation is doing the same thing. They're like, you can't tell me nothing. Like, I'm going to do it for myself because I know what I do for my life, and I control my destiny. And like, you don't know me. And like that fear that like lashes out at somebody else who's trying to help you. You don't know me. You don't know my life is foolishness. I'm not saying to listen to everybody, but listen to those that care about you and love you. And you don't have to listen to them all the time, but maybe once in a while. It'll help you from like going down your own path of destruction, hitting rock bottom, and then be like, what am I doing here? I wonder how I got here. Like I felt like I had to experience all of this, and it was all before I was like 22. And it sucked. So I wrote my story to like remind people like, hey, share a little bit more. Don't isolate so much. Like, you have to believe in the wrong things sometimes to come to know what you believe in is right, or like that you need to make a shift and you need to make a change, and what you're doing in life is actually purpose. Like, don't just be barking at anyone who opposes what you think because that's what's popular right now. Like, embrace one of your friends who does not hold the same values at all, because as soon as you make that person an enemy, you become your own enemy. And that's foolish. To surround yourself, like trees that grow in an environment that doesn't stress them, they easily get ripped out of the ground. I don't want to be a tree that gets ripped out of the ground easily. I want to be there to stay. I want to make an impact, and I want to help impact an environment that I'm around. I want to help nourish the rest of the environment that I'm around. I don't want to be ripped up by like a gust of wind or like, a wave in the sea, something like that. I want to be something that stands the test of time. And that's the only way that you can do that, is like caring for people who don't necessarily hold the same perspectives, ideals, or beliefs that you do in your life.
Yeah, I feel like that's huge with just society today. I don't know if it's our generation specifically. I don't feel like it is, but maybe more so as our generation becomes adults. But surrounding yourself, like, did you watch The Social Dilemma?
No, but I heard it's incredible.
Yeah, you need to watch that, because it's kind of exactly what you're talking about, and it again relates to social media, where these algorithms that they've designed. So no one's the scariest fucking thing. I might hit a spoiler alert here. Care if I talk about it for you? The scariest fucking thing that I learned on there is that they've designed these algorithms to obviously benefit their social media platforms, all of them. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Tumblr, whatever, all of them. And there's like high level, vice presidents, original engineers who are the ones speaking. It's all like interviewing in this documentary. And so they've made these algorithms, and they're competing with each other to literally just get you to spend as much time as possible on their app, because your time is money for them.
Yep.
So they're literally trying to steal your time, and they're trying to pay attention to what you like. So you put yourself in this bubble. The algorithm does. So it sees what you like, what you click on. It literally, at least they're saying on there, I didn't fucking know this, tracks how much time whatever it is on your screen as you're scrolling.
Yeah.
So then it figures out what you like and just keeps feeding you that.
Yeah.
And so you never see a different opinion or a different point of view. And it was just highlighting of that's a major fucking problem in the technology today, and why things seem so divided, because what you're seeing and what you like on your social media is completely different than somebody else. And if you guys think differently, then whatever it is that you think is just continuously being reinforced by whatever you see and whatever you interact with on your social media, which is a massive part of people's lives. And it just, you never get like an understanding of the other perspective.
Bro.
And then people get so offended because they're saying, I see this all over. How do you not fucking believe this? Or how do you not understand this? Why do you think like that? And they're so upset or offended because that's all they see. So they don't understand how someone else wouldn't get that.
Yeah, bro. And you know what's so fascinating is, like, growing up, you're like, nobody would ever like trust like a crack addict or like a heroin addict because you're like, you're like, oh, they're not in their right mind. Yeah. Like they're like almost like under a spell of something. They're under a drug, but like they're under the spell of something else. Like they see things differently in their mind. Like things that are natural are not natural to them, and things that are unnatural to them should be natural to everyone else.
You know, their head's fucked up a little bit.
And yet we have the same addictivity, addictiveness in social media as there are in drugs. And like there have been psychological studies that like the algorithms within Instagram, is particularly Instagram or Twitter, are like so just as addictive as like dangerous drugs. And we would never call ourselves addicts. We'd be like, no, you know, like I'm not on a drug. But anything that's using up like your chemical imbalance at like a catalyzed rate, that is a form of addiction. And we're addicted to our own narratives. And then when we come across somebody who's not addicted to our narrative, we're like, how dare you not be addicted to my narrative? You know what I mean? It's
you don't fucking like my drugs?
You like crack and I like heroin. How dare you? You know, like you got to be out of your mind. And then, but like whatever
it's a great fucking analogy.
Can be used to pit people against one another is what is just like fueling hatred right now. And it's not like, one thing that I've really been paying close attention to, because I've never been political in my entire life. Like it's just like I politics are very important, yes. But I've never been like, oh, this is one side or the other, because the one side or the other argument is extremely divisive. And the whole point of bipartisanship was to create two parties that can like help each other see their blind spots. And I'm not in the mood, like if you post this and you get comments about what I just said, I'm not in the mood to argue about it, because I'm not posing an argument. I'm literally just making a statement. Like, what's the point of a good partnership? What's the point of a good marriage? What's the point of anything where it requires camaraderie, where one side sees something a little bit different than the other side? It's to cover the blind spots. It's not to say, as soon as we start saying, oh, look at that Republican, or oh, look at that Democrat, and look what they said and look what they did, we're pitting ourselves against one another, and we're falling back into a lesser, more primal mindset. And we're falling back into like what happened in the Civil War. Like, this side needs to believe what we believe, therefore, and there are so many reasons why. But nobody's interested in understanding. And as long as nobody's listening to what anyone else has to say that goes against their own ideology, they're creating this narrative of unification. And that's different than unity. Unification is what Hitler tried to achieve in Germany in the Second World War. Unity is where you celebrate every different part of the body, and you say, they're a little bit different than me, and I don't support their unhealthy habits, but I honor them as a person,
and I honor their culture, and I honor their heritage, and I honor their skills and their gifts. And as long as I'm honoring that and I'm loving that person, we can deal with this side that I don't like.
Yeah.
We can get rid of that over time, because hatred can't exist where love does. But we're confusing unification for unity and unity for unification, like the vice versa. And we're saying we want all one, we want all one, and that's never how it exists. Like, imagine if we were just, our body was like a single eyeball. We can't say, oh, I just like my eyes, I want every part of me to be an eye. No. I need my nose so I can smell. I appreciate my nose so I can smell things that I'm not able to see with.
Yeah.
And I can hear things that I'm not able to smell with. And I can taste things that I can't see with. Stuff like that. It's so much more simple, but everything is overcomplicated. And as long as it's a narrative that we agree with psychologically, we stay stuck in that for as long as the cycle repeats, until we start coming to our own demise.
I feel like that's, again, going back to the media. Like, even just news networks, CNN, Fox, whatever, they've also, like I was talking about the newspapers, seems like they also just act as another social media. They're just trying to get a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get your attention. It's all to get ad revenue, commercials. They get paid for that shit.
Fear
It's literally
sells,
their
bro.
business platform.
Fear sells.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. We're tackling some tough topics here, but I feel like people just need to be fucking aware. Not saying that I'm super fucking aware.
Yeah.
Obviously, I get duped or whatever. I'm not super one way or the other. I'd be more topic to topic, but yeah, we don't need to get into a ton of politics. But I think people just need to be aware. Like, it sounds super cliche because everyone's saying it, but do your own fucking research. Like, look into something or listen to somebody.
Yeah,
They literally might teach you. They literally might teach you something.
I'd go a step above and say, like, embrace somebody who doesn't believe what you believe in.
Yeah, and it's okay.
And it's literally okay. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to like go Mortal Kombat on them by the end of the
Yeah.
day and say like, one of us cannot exist in this world
Yeah.
by the end of the 24 hours. Like, actually understand them, and don't try to, bro. So many people are trying to always prove their point. Nobody cares. Really, nobody cares, because until you're willing to listen, nobody's hearing what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Not a single person.
I feel like I'm getting that I'm understanding that as well as I get older. Even
Yeah.
with myself. Okay, listen better.
Yeah.
You hear someone say something and you think of something to respond before they're even done talking.
Yeah.
And you don't hear like what the last half, 75% what they said.
Yeah.
You heard the first part. I'm going to say this. Okay, wait, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to say this. Like, people don't listen to each other.
Exactly.
And I, that includes me too. But fuck.
Yeah, man. There's a proverb that I like to go back to all the time.
That was a good rant, by the way.
Yeah, seriously. There's a proverb that I like to go back to, tying this back into where I was at before I came to LA. There's a proverb that I like to
circle back
to just like think about is like, as a man believes in his heart, so is he. And that just goes to show like what's happening in our world and what's always happened in our world. Some people are willing to die over what they believe in, and other people aren't.
Yeah.
People don't remember the people who aren't willing to die over what they believed in. And sometimes people die believing for the wrong thing. I don't know what to tell you. Tough luck. Like,
happens.
I'm not omniscient, so I can't speak on that.
Yeah.
But like, it's better to die believing in something that you care about, as long as you're doing so not exercising hatred on other people. Because as soon as you die for what you believe in, because you're exercising hatred, that's how you kind of recognize, oh, I might be believing in the wrong thing. I might be. I'm not saying 100%, but like, it's possible. And if you're willing to sacrifice for what you believe in, then you have something sustainable there, and you have something that's more foundational there. When you're trying to attack other people and pit others and yourself against that person or that group. You're no different than anyone else who's discriminated over the course of history.
Yeah.
You can call it whatever you want. You can call it being educated. You can call it being aware. You can call it being smart. It's no different. We're missing the point. And that's what I love going back to that. So before I came out here, tying back in, before I came back out here, I really had like no social life other than just interacting with my parents. And like I'd meet up with 2 friends from high school, maybe once a month. That was it. And I was a part of building a hedge fund. At the beginning of 2020, everything got shut down because of COVID. So that was like pretty much my social interaction. So I was really starved for that interaction. So when I knew when God called me to come to LA, I'm not going to say like, you know, it just happened and it was easy. It really required like it was scary.
Mm-hmm.
It required a lot of faith for me. And I quit my job. My parents were like, what the heck are you doing? I was like, God called me to LA. They were like, cool. How are you going to support yourself? And I was like, I feel like you don't believe me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like I was hurt by that because I felt like I shared something really precious with people that I cared about. And I just felt like they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
So we worked it all out.
Yeah.
But I ended up going through with it. I moved out here. I stayed with one of my childhood friends. And I honestly booked my ticket before I even texted him. So I texted him. I was like, yo, I'm going to be in LA. So I bought my ticket on a Thursday and I flew Tuesday. And I told my friend, I was like, yo, I'm going to be in LA on Tuesday. Can you pick me up from the airport? Didn't even ask for a place to stay. And he was like, oh, cool, bro. How long are you visiting for? I was like, I'm moving there. He was like, oh, that's sick. Like, where are you staying? I was like, I don't have a place. He was like, dude, stay at my place for as long as you want. And that wasn't like a setup at all. I was literally just like, if he doesn't want me to stay at his place, like,
You'll figure it out.
God will provide for me. Like something, I'm just like responding in faith. I don't know what this is going to look like. God will provide for me. And he actually like was so generous and so kind to me and like let me stay there for 4 months. I finally got this place. But when I came out here, I was so like, my heart was like so full of like love and compassion towards people that I was encountering like, bro, I mean, you know it. Like you've been out here way longer than I have, and for pretty much anyone who's listening has probably been out here longer than me. But it's been tough to get used to because LA is different than any other big city. It's so eccentric, and it's kind of like New York in the way that like a lot of people come and they assume an identity that's not technically theirs, but a lot of people are trying to fake it till they make it, and LA is definitely the spot to fake it till you make it because like. Things tend to work out here more so than other cities. There's a lot of people who know people.
I get that vibe. That's one thing I really like about being here is I really feel like since I've been here, it just feels like you can make what you want happen.
Yeah.
It does feel like that. I don't know if it's just in my head.
Yeah.
But it feels like there's so many people out here who are doing just these weird things that are successful because there's so many people here.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, whatever you want to do, it does feel that if you come here, you can make it work out for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's going to be fucking hard probably, but
yeah, definitely.
Somebody here is probably doing something similar.
Yeah. So that's what makes LA, and it's so eccentric. It's so unique. So I had so much compassion. And I was just meeting all kinds of incredible people. Like you were like one of the first people I met, and like a handful of people that I met through a friend who was no longer here that got like wind that I was in LA. Was like, hey, I want to introduce you to some people. I was like, sure, why not? Like it's the middle of a pandemic, and I say pandemic because like when things were supposed to be shut down, like you know, life was still kind of continuing as normal. You know, like the restaurants weren't open, but people were figuring out how to do life without being too restrictive.
Yeah.
And
you just got out here because I was in Minnesota for a little bit after everything kind of went to shit.
Yeah.
And then came back.
Yep.
And that was like right when I first met you. And you just got here, right?
Yeah.
In June or something like that.
End of May. Yeah.
End of May.
So we met in June or July. I think it was July.
It might have been July.
It was right after 4th of July.
I think I came back in the middle of June, actually. Yeah. I just went home. I was supposed to be home for like a week. And then while I was home, they extended the first lockdown for like a month. So I was like, okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, I'm just going to stay here for a little bit. And ended up being 2 months. and then came back, I think, in the middle of June. And yeah, it wasn't long after that I met you.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, just like meeting really unique, you meet a lot of really unique people
Mm-hmm.
out here, and I'm not saying that you like they become your best friends and like you hang out with them all the time, as you know.
Yeah.
But just having all of that time to myself before moving out here, and like spending a lot of time with God, and like getting to know not who I was, who I believed I was, but like this is an entirely different conversation for another day, but like who God said I was from before I ever knew who I was, like what he had set out for me and like what his plans for me were. And being able to, be like, LA is so progressive, as most big cities are, like very progressive thinkers. I'm a progressive thinker, but to be grounded and rooted in something that's like so sound and secure, and to be able to speak from that place to other people, it's like almost peaceful to hear that to a lot of people who maybe don't even believe the same thing. They're just like, wow, I don't know what that is, but like,
Yeah.
I'm
You're saying
drawn.
your religion, your faith.
Yeah. Like it's like people are like, I'm drawn to that because there's something, it's not me. I am less and less impressed with myself every single day. But the more that people can see like Jesus in me or through me, the more like that's the goal at the end of the day. Like if I just show up and they see me, it's not that impressive. And I'm really like, I'm really not impressed with what I've done, because as I've said before, accolades are easy to find, but character is really hard to find. And people like, LA is full of accomplishments and accolades, and people do incredible things, but it's character that it's really tough to find. And you draw those people near to you because you're like, oh, I don't find this much. I want this person to be my friend. And so you hear that?
Yeah. Seemed like the power dimmed for a sec.
Oh, okay.
I
didn't know if it was your equipment, but
it should be all good here. Yeah, we Gucci.
okay.
Gucci baby.
But yeah, coming out here and just being able to meet people who don't have the same beliefs or don't have the same values that I do, and still just like being able to love and honor them for who they are as a person, and not all of the failings or shortcomings or quote unquote like baggage or bad things that they carry with them. Like I can still honor them for who they are and care about them, and say like, okay, I don't like this thing about you, but I'm not going to push you away because you have this thing.
Yeah.
I still want to get to know you more. I still want to grow with you more. I still want to see you grow more. And you would be interested in how many people are like, I don't meet people like you, because when people see this one side of me, like they always turn away, because like I guess that's just like human nature. People are like, oh, I see one thing I don't like. No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna excommunicate you. I'm gonna isolate you. Oh, you don't believe in what I believe in. And just to be out here and to be able to interact and like really become good friends with people who are so different than me in so many ways is just like really humbling and amazing. And since I've been out here, you were saying earlier, I've been a part of a team building a private market investment platform that's like the first of its kind. It's amazing.
This is it. This is what the people want. They want to hear what's dope, dude.
It's so it's called the D.O.P.E app. And it stands for Democratizing Opportunities in Private Equity. And that's what we originally started with, just opening up private equity funds to the everyday investor. But it's getting bigger, and it's going into like venture capital offerings, real estate investment trusts, hedge funds, things like that. So we're in the process of getting that platform built out. But basically, it's a marketplace for like higher return investments. And it's a passive investment. So if you're a day trader or you're a Robinhood trader, you don't have to like be watching the market all the time. And like, maybe one day you're up 60%, and this has been a crazy year financially. For anyone who didn't study finance and you're learning it on your own, this has been an insane year financially. but you don't have to worry about making 60% one day and then losing 90% of your portfolio next month and then trying to gain that back. And I'm not saying that happens to everyone, but with the way things have been going, especially with options trading and all of like the avenues for just an everyday investor to get into the market, and it's investing has turned from a from building a strategy to build wealth to just gambling straight up.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, like I might pick the new hot stock. But you have to remember, like in public markets, like the reason that you can make money is because somebody else is losing money.
Mm-hmm.
And the more, there's a lot of incredible algorithmic trading platforms out there that mitigate your risk. But the more efficient the market becomes, the smaller those gains. And part of the reason that some people have been so successful, well, one, because the markets have gone up since it crashed in March or the end of February. But two, is because like the Dow just reached 30K, which if you don't know what that means, go to Investopedia. Teach yourself something. Like
Investopedia is great. Yeah, we used to do that in class.
It's really helpful.
It's pretty simple too.
Educating yourself financially, but for the Dow to hit 30K and like a lot of people have made money because the market has been going back up, and that dip that was back in February and March, and also just like so much volatility because there's like people on big news networks that are saying like there's going to be a crash soon, and like this is the worst we've ever seen.
I keep seeing that everywhere.
And a lot of people are like, I'm buying the news, bro. And then other people are just like, YOLO. Like I'm gonna buy a Tesla call for like my entire portfolio and just like see if I can get rich. I saw a finance meme the other day that said, it was like on a Twitter. It was a screenshot from a Twitter. It was like, if you don't know what it means when a stock splits, it's the same thing as when your favorite designer puts their merchandise on sale. Have the same mentality. Yeah. It means a stock is on sale. And I was like, all right, bro. Some people are actually using this as like sound investment advice. Mm-hmm. And like it's just causing anomalies in the market. So that's how some people are able to make money. But if you trade like on bad investment advice, you might trade well for a couple times, but chances are when everything resettles, actually not even chances are, when everything resettles, you'll lose your portfolio. Yeah. And it's just the thing, like you're not invincible. Like even the best traders in the world have lost
a lot of money,
hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, sorry, tangent. What we're doing is private market investments. So they're nothing that's publicly traded on the NASDAQ, over the counter, Dow Jones, S&P, like none of that. It's all privately held investments. So for example, you want to get in on a venture capital firm that's investing in a startup. You get priority stock, priority securities by investing in their fund, or in private equity. Private equity is a lot of buyouts. So buying a privately held company or a publicly held company, except what's happening is you're making a high yield return every single year over the course of this investment. So you don't even have to worry about like your money is making, you're making a considerable capital gain return, a capital gain yield every single year. So at the end of however long the period of time is that they lock your money up for, it's kind of like a 401k. You just make an investment that's, maybe so 4 or 5 years.
It is a specified amount of time.
Yeah, so we're offering liquidity, but there's going to be like some penalty terms. Like if you want to pull your money out, like if you already pledge your capital, which is just committing. For anyone who doesn't know, pledging your capital is committing money towards an investment. So that money will come from your bank account and go into that portfolio where they're investing. But if you absolutely like need to pull your money out, there's going to be a penalty on it. And it's just because once you commit capital, like it's supposed to be committed for maybe 4 or 5 years.
And you need the trust of the venture capitalist, correct? That your clients that you're bringing to them.
You need the commitment. And we're starting the investment minimum at $10, which is like nothing. Mm-hmm. usually minimum. Well, first of all, to get into any private market, you have to be an accredited investor, which is like 200,000 USD income a year or $1 million net worth assets over the course of 5 years consecutively. So nobody, like 5% of the population, less than 5% of the population meets that criteria.
So how are you getting around that?
We're structuring everything. We're working with a financial law firm that is like maintaining our compliance, but we're able to structure everything in like certain types of investment vehicles that are used as funds. So in the private market world, there's something that's called a fund of funds, and hedge funds are set up sometimes as a fund of funds. So it's a fund that goes into multiple different hedge funds, and it's kind of similar to that. We're using a blend of compliance techniques to be able to get around those things while still maintaining compliance.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what would, say I want to invest $100? What is my experience with it? I just put it in. I just give it to you guys. Am I choosing where it goes, or is there like
So you sign up, you set your investor preferences and what your industry preferences are, and like, for you studied finance. So you could even set industry experience, because for a lot of our clientele, there are people who are in the finance world that can't afford, they know this world well, but they can't afford to get into it.
Yeah.
So they might be like, for example, we have a guy who's interested, he is a fund manager at a private boutique private equity firm. So he's in charge of making all the investments, but he doesn't meet the accredited. Normally he doesn't meet the accredited investor standard himself, so he can't invest in those funds unless he invests in his own firm. But if he hears about one that's outside of his firm, he can't invest in it because he's not an accredited investor. So he can put his industry experiences in, like, I don't know, let's say the retail sector within private equity, and like he's worked here and he's worked there, and then all of those experiences and those preferences, we tailor firms that we work with to your home profile. And you just get to like click through and like see what firms are offering what funds and the due diligence. So you get to do all the read-ups on it. We'll have in-house analysts and third-party analysts like doing their recommendations and doing their analysis on these funds, and then you get to choose. And then you get on you can choose to invest whenever they do their, it's called a roadshow. It's basically just like their pitch.
Yeah.
And you get to invest as much as you want or as little as you want, as long as it's $10. And then it shows you in your profile page like what's in your portfolio. So let's say, for example, like you invested with private equity firm A, fund 2, and you have $10. Your projected yield, you have $10 in that fund. Your projected yield is, I don't know, let's say 13%, and your lockup period is for 5 years. So you're making 13% rather than, like a 5%. Like the average investor, and this is like completely averaged out in 2020 as well, the average investor makes about 5% a year. So even if you're making like stellar trades, chances are you're also losing. You're like losing big time. And
I've seen both.
You average out at about 5%.
Yeah.
If you just invest in the S&P, it moves anywhere from like 9 to 13% a year.
Yeah. So that percentage you're talking is annually though, right?
Yeah.
And then it compounds.
Yeah.
And do they get to see? Will it represent their growth throughout that time on their profile?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So you get to see all that. You can pull out your money if you want to. You're going to get penalized for it. There's no point to pull out $10. $10 is nothing.
Yeah.
$10 is like a Chipotle meal. You put it away, like, and we're not catering to high school kids who are using their parents' funds, or we're catering to people who are like have a little bit of money to put away, who might be working or they might be interning or something like that. And, you know, if you put away, like, say you put away $250 every 3 months,
Yeah.
that's nothing for the year. You know, if you're salaried at 60,000, you're putting away 1,000 in investments in the private market. You can still use whatever you want. Most people have 3 or 4 grand in the stock market as it is. So as we grow in awareness and popularity, we assume there'll be a greater growth in investment and things like that. But yeah, we're excited. We're gonna start beginning like just like short post education modules on like what private markets are, because a lot of people don't know.
So that's a really good idea.
And it's interesting because as soon as people are filled in on what private markets provide for an investor, they're like, why haven't I been investing in this before?
What are some off the top of your head versus public markets, the best ones?
For public markets?
No, like comparing private to public markets, what are some of the most obvious benefits to the private?
So there's not nearly as much volatility. Your yield is generally higher. So like over the last 10, 15 years, like private markets have way outperformed public markets. And that's even just like looking at like NASDAQ, S&P performance, Dow performance, even though the Dow is doing great. And another thing to think about is like, okay, you're learning about investments. You still want to invest money yourself. Like I still invest money myself. I don't offer investing advice to anyone because that gets like tricky. But I would use this service, but I'd still want to invest some in public markets because I like exercising that ability to invest. But you're putting your money in the hands of somebody who really knows what they're doing. So like they're like a top tier investor.
You're saying on your platform,
like a private market fund manager is a top tier investor, with the exception of venture capital. But what we're doing is we're offering like higher tier boutique funds, because the mission is not to switch people from public markets to private markets. That's not the mission at all. The mission is to provide everyone a service that they would like to use. And if we're just providing trash funds that are like, oh, we might get your money back in 5 years, like nobody's gonna be like, I don't care if I have $10 to invest or not. I'd rather put it in Robinhood if I'm like uncertain as to whether I'm gonna get my money back. But with well-performing private equity, venture capital funds, you know, there's definitely a risk-reward ratio, but you're putting your money in the hands of people who really know what they're doing, and they're high-quality investors. They're not like your average Joe who's like, let me show you how to make $20,000 in options trading on Robinhood, who might be making money off of like
their career, your
movement. And that's how a lot of people make money. They make money off of the volume of their viewers. They're like, oh, you know, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, we're going to be investing however much money you have. You have 3.1 million viewers. Oh, I just bought a whole bunch of puts.
And they do it.
So
they just follow.
Of course they're making $50,000 on those YouTube videos. Like your money is contributing to the movement. So this is really, private markets are really about bettering business, and we're invested in bettering business. We're invested in changing the economy of business, and making sure that we're helping people and not just making behavioral trading patterns that are going to cause a company like Hertz to not go bankrupt. Like that never would have happened ever before, but because people thought it was a good deal, they bought it. Like Hertz was not managing their finances soundly, and then a bunch of people who didn't know what the heck they were doing helped them from going bankrupt. So that's what we're doing. That's kind of a tangent. You don't need to keep all of that if you don't want to, but
no, I'll keep it all.
You can find it. It's called the D.O.P.E app, and our website is DOPE-app.com. And you RSVP, and the beta is coming out in 2021, and you'll get to see and invest and play around with it a bit, and then we'll probably launch live to everyone end of 2021. That's looking like the timeline right now.
I'm excited, man.
Me too.
It sounds great. I don't even know a whole ton about private markets myself. But yeah, like I said, I posted about it and I already had 2 people asking me about it.
Yeah,
I have a small Instagram account. So
we've had a good number of signups. We just started marketing in the last 2 weeks, and we've had like a couple 100,000 impressions and
Really?
like a good number of signups in the last 2 weeks. So
And you just go to the website to sign up?
Yep.
That you just said? Easy enough.
yeah.
And do you have to get approved yourself? Like, do you have to have an approved amount of money? You said it was only $10. Do you have to like?
No, but you'll have to
sign up?
You'll have to like link a bank account just like with any other
And
investment
that just
app.
needs to be verified.
Yeah, it just needs to be verified. So yeah, and we're doing Christmas and New Year's like promotional that if you refer people who successfully sign up, when the beta goes live, you get $50 in investment credit. So
You get free money.
yeah,
Did you hear that? You get free money.
yeah. So yeah, that's my story, and that's what I've been working on in the meantime. Complete 180 from just getting a job.
So it's easy to sign up. Just go to the website, put in some simple information, I'm guessing. Do you have to put in a bank account right away?
No, you just put in your email. We only send you a confirmation email. We're not going to send you any you'll have to stay up to date through our LinkedIn page or our Instagram page with anything new that we're doing, because we don't want to like spam you with emails, especially in the meantime.
Yeah.
Just get on that RSVP list for the beta. It's going to go live for the first. Our beta list supports. I want to say 150,000 people. 150,000
signups?
Yeah, 150,000 signups. That's what we're capable of supporting right now.
Are you close to that?
No, we're not close to that.
So that'd be crazy.
But we've like I said, like since we've started advertising, we've gotten a lot more signups.
And you just started advertising?
Yeah. So we're looking good.
So get to it. Where are you advertising?
On Google and on LinkedIn.
Google and LinkedIn.
And Instagram will be coming soon.
Yeah.
But we want to get something a little bit more tangible as far as like teasers of what the app is going to look like so that people can play around with it. But yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So we're excited.
I feel like it's going to blow up for you, honestly.
Thank you, dude.
I
hope
really
so.
feel like that.
I hope so.
This
is a pretty untapped area, and for good reason. It's been a lot of hard work. So
yeah. What was the biggest barrier to entry with this?
Compliance and legal. Like, spent the majority of our bootstrap budget on compliance and legal work before we could even like start with anything else.
What does that mean exactly?
So like making sure that we are following the regulatory guidelines for the Securities and Exchange Commission. Otherwise, we get shut down before we even started. So we've done a good bit of work with the financial law firm that we've been working with to make sure that we have everything and that we're structuring everything the way that we need to.
Okay.
So that's been the biggest barrier, and that's kind of mind-numbing because it's so many rules and there's so many clauses and all that stuff. So yeah, but we're excited. We're really going to like boost on the back end with marketing now. Building awareness for this is extremely important. And yeah, just got to see what happens now.
Well, like I said, I'm fucking pumped.
Same, dude. Same.
Anything else you want to say about D.O.P.E?
No, I think that's it. And that pretty much brings me to like right here and right now. That's my story in a nutshell. Probably like what 2.5 hour segment right there. We went for a while.
It was perfect, man.
But yeah, that's about all I have to say. And the rest is
it's gonna be history.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm sure you'll be busy.
Yeah.
Things will come up, I'm sure, good and bad. That you'll deal with. And
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I really feel, obviously I'm not an expert in the private market, but I feel like you've gotten this far, and it seems like you've gotten through, like what you just said. You gotten approved basically by the SEC, or not the SEC.
We've like made sure that we've done everything to like maintain SEC compliance. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's getting there.
Yeah, dude. Well, hey, thank you so much for having me on your show.
No
This has
problem.
been incredible, and anytime we sit down, like we always have great conversations.
Yeah, I
So
love
I'm
talking
glad
to you,
like
man.
we were able to capture a little bit of what we talk about in private
Mhm.
publicly for anyone who is not, having an opportunity to like sit down with either one of us in person. So
Yeah. As soon as I knew I wanted to do this, I knew right away you were one of the first people I'd want to do this with, and love to have you on again anytime.
definitely, dude.
As this grows, as D.O.P.E grows, we'll have Nico back and probably check in and just whatever. It doesn't always have to be, this big story. Obviously, the first time on, it's great to hear, and that is what I want from a lot of people is, what are you doing? How the come up? That's what it is. How'd you come up? So, what is your story? But as you return, like I said, I'd love to have you on again. Just
I'm down. Yes, sirree. All right, bro.
let's fucking end it.
Thank you.
All right.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.